Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel's Shadow Spider-Man. Chapter 61. By the way, I forgot to take something. Can you take me to school? Peter Parker said when he was about to go home, and it was Link's homework that was left in the classroom. Link skimmed Peter Parker and said impatiently, "What is it?" "Really, this guy made himself work overtime, right?" Peter Parker said at this time, "It's your homework." "Oh, that's very important, let's go." Link took Peter Parker into the shadows, and Spider Shadow optimized the problems with today's suit. Link and Peter Parker just stepped out of the shadows. Ha 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 ha. A man made a rough voice, and a graceful blonde woman lay on top of the man. Peter Parker immediately said, "Vampire." Link also looked curiously at the man and woman in front of him. The blonde woman looked up at Link and Peter Parker. The woman licked her lips and said, "Boy's blood is the most delicious." After the woman finished speaking, she rushed towards Link and Peter Parker. Women are extremely fast. Wow, Peter must love you, you see how enthusiastic she is. Link couldn't help but said. Peter Parker said, "I like a couple." Link and Peter Parker avoided the woman at the same time, and she licked her lips and said, "I will love you very much." Link and Peter Parker jumped out of the classroom, and then went to as empty a place as possible. "Little guys, why don't you run away?" The female vampire looked at Link. It was the first time she saw such a handsome boy. It felt so good to turn him into a member of her family and play with him for the rest of her life. Link moved his body and said, "This guy's eyes are so perverted, will you come or should I come?" Peter Parker said, "Come on. Link is better than him, so let Link come." Link moved his body and looked at the female vampire and said, "Look at the young master beating you up." The female vampire still doesn't know the seriousness of the matter. She teased Link and said, "Little guy, I hope you can satisfy me." "It will definitely satisfy you." Link appeared in front of the female vampire in an instant, with purple lightning jumping on Link's body, and Link's eyes looked a little excited at this time. The female vampire noticed that Link seemed excited looking at the school building. Is this guy crazy? Suddenly Spider-Man understood something. As soon as he opened his mouth, he saw Link punch the woman flying, and the direction of the woman flying was their classroom. Link wanted to destroy the classroom, and then he could not go to class tomorrow. This guy can't be careless at all. The female vampires are going to crash the classroom. At this time, Peter Parker launched a spider silk to hold the female vampire. Peter Parker breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at Link and found that Link was looking at him unkindly. Peter Parker hurriedly said, "I'll help you." "Link. It hurts." At this time, the female vampire got up from the ground. She didn't see Link's attack at all just now. Why are humans so powerful? Could it be a mutant? The female vampire shook her head and said, "You." Immediately, the woman let out a sharp growl, and Link frowned. Peter Parker frowned and then he sensed something approaching quickly. After a while, dozens of figures appeared, and these figures were all vampires. Most of them are blonde, and there are men and women among them, and they are basically very good looking. At this time, the female vampire said, "You humans are doomed." Really? Link said casually, "There are 13 vampires here. I'll leave her to you, and I'll take care of the other vampires." Link said, pointing to the vampire he had just beaten into the air. Peter Parker nodded, and then the nano armor quickly covered his body. The sound of electric current beating. Peter Parker was suddenly hit by a ball of golden light, and immediately he felt that he had been greatly promoted. That's what makes Link's enhanced magic so surprising. In the next second, Link rushed out like a purple current. The poor vampire was sent flying by Link before he could react. Although the speed of the vampire was also fast, it was obviously far behind Link's terrifying speed. In order to prevent these vampires from escaping, Link also removed all the screws in his class, and then he drove these screws into the bodies of these vampires. At this time, Peter Parker also knocked down the female vampire in a completely crushing posture. He tied the female vampire with spider silk. He planned to turn around to help Link, but found that Link was stepping on a female vampire's ass and said, "Yo. Slow down, haven't you eaten yet?" Peter Parker sighed and said, "Okay, what should we do with these vampires?" "Kill them. They can't be handed over to the police." Link snapped his fingers, and Spider Shadow came out of the shadows. Seeing the spider's shadow coming out of the shadows, the vampire couldn't help but said, "Wizard." Seeing Link stepping on the buttocks of a female vampire, Spider Shadow couldn't help but said, "What's the matter? These are vampires, don't you wonder why they need to drink blood?" Link said he wanted Spider Shadow to study these vampires. Spider Shadow collected a vampire's blood and said, "I'm going back." At this time Peter Parker said, "How should we deal with these vampires?" Link thought for a while and then said, "Let them die in the sun. Since they are vampires, there must be no fun." "Wait a minute, they're not bad people." At this moment, a blonde woman came out from the corner. She was the new teacher of Link and Peter Parker's class. Link looked at the new teacher and said, "She was drinking human blood just now, right?" Link pointed to the vampire tied up by Peter Parker with a spider web. "No, I'm voluntary." At this time, the man who was sucked blood came out, and he looked at Link and Peter Parker with a reddish face. "Female vampires come here for the thrill." Link frowned. At this time a young vampire said, "Link, let us go, we only need a little blood every time." Link dismissed the girl and said, "Are you a sick child from the next class?" The vampire girl frowned and said, "I just hate the sun. I didn't expect you and Peter Parker to be the famous tyrant Spider and SpiderMan." Link looked at the large group of vampires in front of him, touched his chin, and then threw the blame on Peter Parker. "You figure it out." Link stepped aside and looked at Peter Parker. Peter Parker smiled wryly. In fact, he didn't know what to do. After all, these are vampires. It's fine if they didn't kill people, but if they did, then he definitely couldn't let these vampires go, but how to judge? Suddenly Peter Parker thought of Iron Man. Tony Stark was very powerful, and since Link took the blame, he could also take the blame, so let's give the blame to Tony Stark. Just as Peter Parker made up his mind, Black Widow stepped out of the shadows. The Black Widow said, "Give them to me. The vampires in front of me are very famous figures in society, and they control almost 1/10 of the country's funds, so it is impossible for Link to solve them all. Of course, once these vampires are killed people, then they will be arrested immediately. At that time, these vampires will be experimental subjects, even though they are rich and have a high status. However, there are only a few of them. As long as human beings make up their minds, these vampires will be completely wiped out. However, these vampires are still smart. Most of them buy blood. Of course, some go out to hunt, but they will not kill people." Peter Parker looked at Link and said, "Okay then." Link stood up and raised his hand for a moment. The metal in the vampire's body was ripped out. "Hiss, can't you be lighter?" The sick girl vampire looked at Link and said. She used to think that Link was cool and handsome, but now she thinks Link is a little scary. Just now, she solved more than a dozen of them in almost an instant. A vampire with good strength, this guy is very strong. Link dismissed the sick vampire and said, "Aren't you afraid of the sun?" "My name is Avril. I have spoken before. We are not afraid of the sun, but we hate the sun very much. There are also many kinds of vampires, some are monster-like vampires, and some vampires will die when they encounter the sun. We are very happy. Luck is neither a monster, nor does it die because of the sun. Remember my name for me. My name is Avril." Quote. The sick vampire girl looked at Link. Oh. Link looked at the sick vampire and then at Peter Parker and said, "Let's go home." "Wait a minute." Peter Parker looked at Link and said, "Have you removed all the screws in the classroom?" Link tilted his head to play dumb. What are you talking about? Hurry up and go home. Otherwise, your Aunt May will be worried." Link said. All the screws in the classroom were removed by him. He planned not to have class tomorrow, but now Peter Parker seems to be aware of his thoughts. This guy is getting to know him more and more. Peter Parker said at this time, "Let's go and screw it on." What are you doing? I'm so tired. Let's do it tomorrow." Link said. He planned to skip class tomorrow. "Then let's help you," Avril Lavigne said at this time. She was more or less guilty of attacking Link just now, so she was very happy that she was able to help Link. "Then thank you very much." Peter Parker finished speaking, and he turned to Link and found that Link was staring at Avril as if he wanted to tear Avril into pieces. Avril noticed Link's eyes, then dodged a little, and finally said coyly, "I'm not a casual woman. If you want to associate with me, you must at least start as a friend. Miss Avril, Link wants to kill you now." And why does Link's fierce eyes look like love to you? Afterwards, with the help of the vampires, the desk screws were quickly installed. Humans and vampires accomplished a small thing. Avril folded her arms and said, "Why are we all good vampires?" Link looked at Avril Lavigne and said, "Oh, what do you mean?" Avril frowned. Just as Link and Peter Parker were about to leave, Avril Lavigne said, 10,000 sucks your blood, only a few milliliters is enough. Avril wants to drink Link's blood, but she firmly believes that money can buy Link's blood. Link glanced at Avril and said, "No. What if you have any virus?" Link suspected that the vampire might be carrying some virus, so he didn't intend to let Avril suck his own blood, and this guy's proposal just now made him have to come to class tomorrow. Avril frowned and said, "Then you can cut your finger and give me a little blood." No, Link resolutely refused. It's not like Link. Peter Parker knew that Link liked money very much, after all he had bargained with Jasmine Lynn before. It seemed that Avril Lavigne really made Link angry. 30,000, Avril said. She couldn't believe that a few drops of blood can't be bought with money. Link looked at Avril Lavigne and said, "Deal." Peter Parker. After that, Link gave Avril a little blood and US dollars, tisk tisk tisk. This sick guy is quite rich. Link looked at Black Widow after getting the money and said, "Goodbye." Black Widow nodded. Link then leaves with Peter Parker. After being separated from Peter Parker, Link returned home. As soon as he got home, he found Spider Shadow playing with the steel mask. Link asked, "What do you want to eat?" Spider Shadow put the mask on the floor and said, "I want to eat something delicious." Now her mind is a little confused, go ask the teacher. Then she entered the shadows and came to Tony Stark. "Wow, can you knock on the door next time?" Tony Stark said. Spider Shadow does this a lot, and sometimes gets scared when he's too focused. "Oh, sorry." Spider Shadow touched his head and told Tony Stark about the problem he encountered. Tony Stark has also encountered such a problem before. He thought about it and gave Spider Shadow some advice and said, "Do you want to stay for dinner?" Spider Shadow shook his head and said, "Master is preparing food." "Delicious." Tony Stark touched his chin and said, "Can I have a taste?" "Of course it's fine," Spider Shadow said. Spider Shadow then takes Tony Stark through the shadows to Link's house. At this time Link was serving the food. "Hey, Mr. Tony Stark." Link held the potato shreds and looked at Tony Stark in front of him. "Why did he come here?" Tony Stark immediately stated his intention of coming, and he said, "I heard that you were a chef." "Ha ha ha, it's just that I'm good at cooking. By the way, do you want to use chopsticks or forks?" Link said. In fact, he was quite happy that Tony Stark came here. After all, Jiang came from Tony Stark. He has learned a lot from him, and the 2 battle suits he is wearing now are made by Tony Stark, so he should treat Tony Stark well. "Forks," began Tony Stark, who was not very good with chopsticks. "Oh." Link nodded and looked for the fork, found the fork that was placed, and handed it to Tony Stark. "Thank you. It also smells very good." Tony Stark tasted the potato shreds a little, and then his eyes lit up slightly. "This taste is very good." Link and the Spider Shadow also started to eat. About half an hour later, the dinner was over, and Tony Stark leaned back on his chair and said, "It's very delicious, come back next time when I have time, so goodbye." Tony Stark left Link's house. He planned to take a walk, after all, he ate too much. Link, who was packing up the tableware in the room, said, "Go and study." Spider Shadow has been distracted since just now, probably thinking about the steel suit, which Link doesn't understand, so he can't help Spider Shadow. Spider Shadow nodded and then left to continue his own research. The next morning, the Spider Shadow was carrying a school bag and stood at Tony Stark watching the students under the podium. This morning she said she was going to school, so Tony Stark spent 1 minute helping her prepare the procedures, and then took the Spider Shadow when she came here. Her name couldn't be called Spider Shadow because she was going to school. The name Tony Stark prepared for her was Elise Stark. Everyone get along well. Tony Stark slipped away after finishing speaking. Spider Shadow consciously sat behind Link. Peter Parker also looked at Spider Shadow in a daze. What the hell? Why is it called Elise Stark? No matter how you look at it, the Spider Shadow looks like an Asian, right? Because there were no books in class, Spider Shadow squeezed beside Link. Spider Shadow said, "Hello. Link, is this an acting addiction?" Although he wanted to laugh, Link still said seriously, "Hello." A class passed quickly. In an instant, a large number of students came to Spider Shadow and said, "Did you know Link before?" Spider Shadow had shown up with Link before, so it was normal to be asked this way. In short, Spider Shadow's beautiful appearance and high cold image have attracted many people. At noon, Link, Peter Parker and Spider Shadow met on the roof. Link said, "Why did you come to school suddenly?" At this time, Spider Shadow said, "Because I also want to play with the Master's friends." Is that so? Then why didn't you tell me? You said that I would help you too. Link said, "It seems that he is wrong for not making friends for the rest of his life." At this time, Spider Shadow said, "Master has a good network, so just trouble him. I don't want the Master to bother about my affairs." Peter Parker was starting to get a little sour. At this time, Link received the news. Link saw that it was Michelle Jones asking if he had dinner together. Link said that he would eat together. After all, they basically eat together in the cafeteria at noon now. So Link took Peter Parker and Spider Shadow to find Michelle Jones and the others. At noon, the previous 6 people became 7 people. During the meal, Michelle Jones asked Spider Shadow, "Are you Tony Stark's daughter?" Spider Shadow looks nothing like Tony Stark's daughter. At this time, the Spider Shadow said, "I was adopted by Tony Stark, not his own daughter." Tony Stark had already confessed some things before coming, so she could deal with it easily. "So that's the case, then let's be friends from now on. My name is Michelle Jones." Michelle Jones said openly, but she was admiring the beauty of Spider Shadow. To be honest, she felt that Link and Spider Shadow is a good match. "Hello." Spider Shadow nodded and said. Then Mary Jane said, "My name is Mary Jane." "Hello." Spider Shadow said seriously. Then Gwen Stacy said, "My name is Gwen Stacy, nice to meet you, you look very beautiful." Spider Shadow also said, "You are also very beautiful." At this moment, Ned lowered his voice and said, "Oh my God. I thought Annie was already the most beautiful, but I didn't expect that Elise in front of me is also very beautiful. I feel even more beautiful than Annie, but she is still a little worse than Muzzy." Quote. Talking about Muzzy, Ned felt a little frustrated. Muzzy seemed to broadcast live from time to time. He only hoped that Muzzy could say hello every day. Then he spoke out his thoughts. Link, touching his chin, "It's not impossible to say hello every day." Peter Parker looked at Link quietly. At this moment, Link said, "Why don't you go to the comment section and say something?" Ned smiled bitterly and said, "Will Muzzy talk to me?" Link patted Ned on the shoulder and said, "It will." "Okay then, I'll give it a try." Ned began in the comment section. It didn't take long to get the approval of a lot of buyers. Who doesn't like being greeted by a beautiful girl every day? After lunch, Link and the others looked at each other, and Link got up first and said, "I have something to do." Link quickly slipped away. Michelle Jones said with a smile, "I'm afraid he thinks we're taking him to the library." Ned nodded and said, "He's worried about us inviting him to the library." Several people laughed. Then Mary Jane looked at the Spider Shadow and said, "Miss Elise Stark, are you going to study in the library?" Spider Shadow looked at the red-haired girl in front of her and said, "You can just call me Elise. Since everyone is going, I will go too." Spider Shadow doesn't hate libraries as much as Link does. A few minutes later, Peter Parker and the others went to study, while Link met the vampire girl Avril under a big tree. At this time, the vampire girl was reading a book. Link saw that it was a romance novel. Would vampires still like this kind of thing? "Hi." Link greeted first. The vampire in front of him looked pale and looked sick. Hearing Link's voice, she looked up at Link and said, "Is there something wrong?" "It's nothing." Link sat down beside Avril. Avril Lavigne sighed and said, "There is a physical education class this afternoon. It's so troublesome. PE class. We also have physical education class in the afternoon, what a coincidence." Link couldn't help but said. Avril looked at Link. This guy didn't pay attention to her at all. Anyway, he can be regarded as a beautiful girl. How can you not notice it? Avril Lavigne said, a little unhappy. People like us won't be noticed even if they die. Link looked at Avril Lavigne. Who? Avril Lavigne is a vampire, right? At this moment, Link said, "Don't worry." Avril looked at Link. Did Link want to comfort herself? In fact, this person is not bad. If he asks himself, maybe he can be his friend. If Link wants to develop further, it is not impossible, but future children must have her surname. Relax. You are not a human being, so your worries are unnecessary. Link said, making Avril's expression stiff, as if she was constipated. Avril looked at Link and couldn't help but said, "Hateful humans." She's starting to dislike Link. This guy is really annoying. Link said, "Don't you have any friends? What do vampires want human friends to do? Humans are just food." Avril Lavigne said, she is a little depressed now. She is isolated by the small circle of human beings. At first she thought she would have many friends, but gradually suddenly, she found that no one wanted to be friends with her. Just because she looks like a sick person, what a nuisance. Link looked at Avril and said, "Be friends with me." "I refuse. Human beings are just food." Avril felt that Link might be trying to tease her, so she refused decisively. In fact, if Link sincerely made friends with her, then she would be very welcome. Link was not talking. He said, "A few months ago, I was alone." Link was very cold at first, and he seemed to be unapproachable, but then people gradually became familiar with Link, and people realized that Link was not cold and cold. This guy is actually an ordinary person, but his appearance is very handsome, and Link is a person who always loves to fish. "I know, you gradually had friends later on." Avril Lavigne felt that Link was a very cold person when she first started school. At first, she thought that Link would definitely not be able to make friends, but now he has friends, and she still doesn't have a friend. Things are fickle. Actually, friends are very interesting sometimes. After Link finished speaking, he got up and stretched out his hand to pat his buttocks, then stretched out his hand in front of Avril Lavigne and said, "I treat you to ice cream, you should be able to eat it, right?" Avril Lavigne pulled Link's palm and stood up with a little distaste. "Yes, but I am very expensive." Link waved his hand and said, "I don't have any money, just eat something ordinary." Avril curled her lips and said, "Stingy." After that, the two came to the cold drink shop, because there was still a lot of time, so the two ate slowly. Avril read her romance novel while eating. Link thought about taking out the magic book and started studying. If he studied magic at noon, he could go to play in the afternoon. Link spent 2 hours learning magic every day. Learning too much magic will make people feel irritable, so he only plans to study for 2 hours a day, and as for skill training, he will help Spider-Man be a messenger of justice for 2 hours. In general, he can still have a lot of time to play in a day. Avril noticed the magic book in Link's hand, and she asked suspiciously, "Why are there no words?" "This is a magic book, it has been banned, and now only I can read it." Link said bluntly. Is that so? What kind of magic do you know?" Avril Lavigne said curiously. Link tilted his head and said, "Changing magic, spatial movement, strengthening magic, there are so many." "What do you want to do?" Avril Lavigne said, "Change magic. Can you turn people into animals?" Yes. Link nodded. It is possible to turn people into animals. It's amazing. Avril was a little curious. Although she was a vampire, she didn't know much about magic. After a long time, the two walked out of the cold drink shop together. Avril looked at the hot sun, and she didn't want to leave. "Let's go." Link opened a black umbrella and said at this moment. You didn't have an umbrella just now, right? Didn't Avril see Link holding an umbrella just now? Could this guy be stealing an umbrella? Magic. It's very simple to turn the straw of a cold drink into an umbrella. To be honest, the transformation magic is really powerful. I can even turn many attacks into flower petals, or even butterflies. This magic is worth learning. Forget it anyway. You can't study either, let's go. Link said. Avril frowned and said, "I feel like you're despising me." "Get rid of the feeling." Link said, although he didn't mean it, but Avril said so please be angry with her. Avril went to Link and said, "Let's go." Link turned to Avril Lavigne and said, "Walking with you will affect my female popularity, so you go first, and the umbrella will be given to you." Avril couldn't help but said, "No one likes you at all." Link watched Avril leave and said, "Is there anything you want to tell me?" "You're really sharp." The blonde beauty stepped out of the shadows, and she was Link's new teacher. The new teacher's name is Susie. What's the matter? Link asked. Susie looked at Link and said seriously, I hope you can become friends with Avril Lavigne, she doesn't have any friends until now. Link asked suspiciously, aren't you her friends? No, we are her family. Family and friends are different, and she doesn't make friends because of our family, but we all know that she longs for friends, but she looks sick and persuades her to leave many people, plus her slightly poisonous personality, so she still has no friends until now, and now your appearance makes us think that she may be friends with you. Susie said, Avril often said that why does a big family need friends? After chatting with Link for a while, Susie said, you should go to class, and class will start in a few minutes. Oh, goodbye, teacher. Link left leisurely after finishing speaking. Because it was a physical education class, he could slow down a little. A few minutes later, he came to the playground. At this time, everyone was almost there. He looked at the class next door. He didn't see Avril, but it seemed that Emily and Avril belonged to the same class. Looking at girls, Michelle Jones said. Link nodded and said, there is a girl who cares a lot, but she doesn't seem to be here. What kind of girl makes you care so much? Michelle Jones said, flicking her hair. Link moved his body and said, a very lonely girl, her family asked me to be friends with this girl. Well, is that so? Said Michelle Jones. In the garden not far away, Avril Lavigne was sitting under a tree, surrounded by the scent of roses. This place can be said to be one of her favorite places. It is quiet and beautiful, and even has the fragrance of fragrant flowers. Hello. Suddenly Link appeared. Avril gave Link a blank look and said, crazy. Link wasn't angry either. He said, shall we go play together? No. Avril Lavigne resolutely refused, and reading a book quietly here is also very comfortable. Link didn't intend to force Avril. He said, goodbye. Avril nodded and said, goodbye. Bye-bye. Link left, but Avril covered her ears a little happily, as if it was the first time she said goodbye to her like this. Afternoon. Link, Spider Shadow, and Peter Parker are all ready to stand up for justice. Peter Parker moved his body and said, let's separate. This will be more efficient, and if there is any trouble, please inform each other. Link nodded. This is indeed more efficient, and it can even be lazy, so he is quite supportive of this. Spider Shadow also nodded, although she could want to be with Link more, but this is not bad. Then the three of them left in three directions. A few minutes later, Link noticed a sneaky man. Link noticed that one of his hands was hidden in his clothes. It looked like there was something inside. Link thought about moving slowly towards the man. After all, this is the beautiful country, so the man just now may have a bomb hidden in his clothes. If he detonates the bomb, there may be many deaths. Link silently observed the man. The man sat on the bench and looked around. He looked anxious and scared. Link began to guess, was he being threatened? When Link was thinking, the man took out something. It was indeed a bomb, and it was a modified bomb. The man had already closed his eyes at this moment. Noticing the bomb in the man's hand, people fled in all directions, but how could they pass the bomb so quickly? Boom! At this time, an explosion occurred, someone screamed, and the next second, red petals fell from the sky. The man was a little confused. What he prepared was a bomb. Why did the explosion produce petals? Although he was puzzled, he still thought it was beautiful. At this time Link appeared behind the man. Link yawned and said, does it look good? The man turned around and found that it was Link wearing a nano suit, and he knew Link. After all, he is one of the most popular superheroes right now. The man pursed his lips and said, since you are a superhero, why don't you save my daughter? My daughter was killed by the rich second generation here, but the rich second generation was not punished. If you are a superhero, then go and help my daughter seek justice. The man's voice was a little hoarse. His daughter was his last hope, but now his hope was ruthlessly crushed. The loss of hope drove him crazy, so he assembled the bomb himself, and prepared to take the rich second generation and some innocent people to die. Link touched his chin and said, go and talk to the police. At this time the police came, and one of the female policemen with a very good figure said, is this a demon? Link nodded and said, I'll leave it to you. If you can, listen to his story carefully. The female policeman nodded and said, this time it was a very serious accident, so no one can escape legal sanctions. The rose petals fell from the eyes, and the policewoman caught the petals. This is a very beautiful petal. When she raised her head this time, she found that Link had disappeared. Link saw the man being subdued by the police, and then left. This time the police will definitely investigate strictly. After all, this is not a small incident. Link turned and left. In every world there are good people and bad people. Next, Link met a robber. There is never a shortage of robbers here. Link jumped in front of the robber and solved it. The robber also called the police, using the robber's mobile phone to call the police. Thank you. At this time, the young man who was robbed said, he was almost scared to pee just now, but luckily the person in front of him saved him. Bye, Link said casually. When the young man saw Link leave, he turned around and left. This time, he would not come to these places with few people. It was too dangerous. 2 hours later, Link was sitting on the edge of the roof, and after a while Peter Parker climbed up to Link and said, I'm so tired. Just now he stopped the out-of-control heavy truck and was almost crushed into meatloaf. It's not easy to be a superhero. Peter Parker rests beside Link. Link also didn't bother Peter Parker. Peter Parker worked very hard every day. Not only to help him with his homework but also to be a superhero. Peter Parker is a model worker. A few minutes later, the spider shadow flew over. He looked at Link and said, Master. Link nodded and said, are you going to study later? I'm going to study later. Spider Shadow said. She felt that there were still many things she didn't know, so she had to work harder until she understood everything. Link walked up to Spider Shadow and said, then go ahead, I'm looking forward to what you will become in the end. Spider Shadow nodded and walked into the shadows to leave. Peter Parker woke up a few minutes later, stretched his limbs and said, come on. Go to my house for dinner. Link nodded. Today he is going to Peter Parker's house for dinner. Link and Peter Parker put away their nanosuits and were ready to go. A few minutes later Peter Parker received a call from Aunt May. Link was walking on the path by the river. He could actually use Shadow Escape to go home directly, but he ate a lot at Peter Parker's house, so he planned to take a walk and digest the food. Because it is night, there are not many people. It can be said that there are very few people. Link's eyes fell on an Asian woman in front of him. It's very dangerous to walk alone like this. Link felt the threat, and the spider sensor was alerting him that danger was approaching. A huge creature rushed out of the sea, and its target was the Asian woman in front of Link. Marvel is really dangerous. Just as Link was about to make a move, he discovered that the Asian woman was avoiding the monster's attack extremely quickly. Link began to wait and see. This woman is not an ordinary person. Although the strength of the woman is good, the strength of the monster is obviously stronger. The woman was bumped into Link by the monster, and Link stretched out his hand gentlemanly and said, are you all right? The woman froze for a moment, then said, it's dangerous for you to leave here quickly. Humans can't defeat the monster in front of them. At this time, the woman found that the monster in front of her was growling, but it didn't come directly to attack. It seemed to be afraid of something. Is it afraid of itself? But this way, then why did it attack itself just now? This monster is definitely not afraid of himself. Is it afraid of the teenagers around him? It seems that the young man's face has not fluctuated at all since just now. It is very calm. Link moved his body and said, are you afraid of me? The monster growled and rushed towards Link in an instant. Good job, Link said frivolously, and purple thunder began to jump on his fist. At this time, the monster had already rushed in front of Link. Link punched out. Boom! Link's fist hit the monster's head, and a purple thunder burst out for a moment, and the poor monster was instantly enveloped by the terrifying thunder. The monster was hit by Link like a cannonball and embedded in the wall. The monster's head was directly blown off by Link. Link shook his hand and said, not bad. The woman opened her mouth slightly. The monster in front of her was their clan's old enemy. She knew very well how powerful the monster in front of her was, but now she was punched in the head by the human boy in front of her. Although the woman knows that there are many superheroes in this world, she still feels that these superheroes are completely inferior to them, but now it seems that she is short-sighted. Link looked back at the woman and said, what's your name? The woman was a little afraid of Link for no reason. Link's punch just now was too terrifying. My name is Circe, and I am an eternal Protoss. The creatures you defeated just now are called abnormal races. They are our old enemies. Circe said. Huh. Link rubbed his chin, then remembered that Thanos seemed to be an Eternal too. Link glanced at the woman in front of him and continued, Eternal Protoss. What an amazing name. But it feels very weak. Circe smiled wryly. It wasn't that she wasn't strong but that Link was too perverted. It was the first time she saw a human being of the abnormal race that could be killed with one punch, and she said, I'm not good at fighting. Oh. Link was thoughtful. He waved his hand and said, it's nothing, I'll go first. Link walked up to the abnormal race, and he was going to take the abnormal race away to be studied by others. Watching Link stuff the corpse of the abnormal race into the shadow, Circe said, what are you going to do? Nothing. Link said casually. Then Link disappeared into the shadows. Only then did Circe feel that humans were already very powerful, at least some of the best humans were not inferior to them at all. If human beings continue to develop, will they become the most powerful race in the universe? Wow, what is this? Tony Stark said in surprise, looking at the corpse of the monster that suddenly appeared. Link came out of the shadows at this time and said, this thing is called the abnormal race, and there are also Eternal Protoss. I think you will be interested, so I brought it here. Link understood that the moment Tony Stark knew about the Eternal Protoss, he would take the initiative to regard the Eternal Protoss as an imaginary enemy, so if he gave Tony Stark a study of the abnormal race, he should get a lot of good things. Tony Stark touched his chin and looked at the monster in front of him. Such a monster must be able to kill many people, right? Tony Stark was in a mood, and he said, at least to help me. The spider Shadow, who was reading a book at the side, nodded and walked over. Link didn't quite understand, so he decided to go home and sleep. Friday. Link went to bed happily. Today he can travel across the world. I hope that Nicole Robin has found a way to practice domineering color. When he opened his eyes again, Link appeared in a dark forest. He was transparent at first, but over time his body began to solidify. After a while, Link moved his body and began to explore what is here. This is a dark and gloomy forest. Link feels that there should be vampires or ghosts living in such a forest. There must be monsters here, right? Link looked forward to something he would encounter. Help! Link heard a faint voice, which was a girl's cry for help. Link rushed over in an instant. Is it the girl being hunted by monsters? Soon Link saw the girl and a human behind her. Although it was human, it looked a little scary. Link was a little disappointed. He hoped to see monsters more than humans. Link appeared behind the girl to block the man and said, she doesn't like you, isn't it too much for you to still be like this? Hearing Link's words, the girl looked back and found a man who was stopped by a teenager who was chasing her. The girl said out of breath, he's a ghost, so be careful. Ghost. Link became interested. In the next second, the ghost rushed towards Link. Link used the magnetic force to condense the iron sand from the ground and formed chains. These chains directly penetrated the ghost's body and nailed it to the big tree. Although the chain pierced the ghost, he still did not die. How fun! Seeing that Link easily defeated the ghost, the girl breathed a sigh of relief and said, thank you, but you don't seem to be a member of the ghost-killing team. Link turned his back on the girl. Just now, the girl mentioned the Ghost Slayer squad. Does that mean this is the world of Ghost Slayer? Link touched his chin. Can he learn the breathing method? If you learn the breathing method, you will definitely remind yourself. Link shook his head and said, no, are you? I'm a member of the ghost-killing team. I came to investigate the girl's disappearance. I didn't expect to meet a ghost. It must be this ghost that ate the girls nearby. It's really abominable. The girl's voice was a little excited, and it was obvious that she hated ghosts. The girl's family members were all eaten by ghosts, and she was almost eaten, but fortunately, she was rescued by a passing member of the ghost-killing team, and then she became a member of the ghost-killing team, but her strength was very average. This time when she came to investigate, she didn't expect to be exposed, and she was also teased by ghosts, which made her very angry. Link listened to the girl's words, and then looked at the ghost. According to the setting, the ghost in front of him could only be killed by the sun or the sun wheel knife. Link tilted his head and the iron sand turned into a long knife. Link swung the long knife and easily cut off the ghost's head. Little ghost, do you want to die? The ghost, whose head rolled to the ground, still clamored. He was not dead, so he was very arrogant. You can't kill him like this, but I can kill him if I find my sunwheel knife. Let's go find the sunwheel knife. Introduce yourself. I am Shoko Sakurai, you can be called Shoko. My name is Link, who has the special ability to control metal. It's the first time I've seen it. It's amazing. Link kicked the ghost's head away. Boom, the head hit the tree trunk and bounced back. Link said, then let's go find the sunwheel knife. Shoko Sakurai said, aren't you afraid of ghosts? They can eat people. Shoko Sakurai looked at Link, who was kicking the ghost's head like a ball. It's rare for Link to see a ghost for the first time but not be afraid at all. You must know that she was terrified when she saw a ghost for the first time, and she is still very afraid of ghosts now. Link kicked the ghost's head away, and said, I'm stronger than him, why should I be afraid of him? At this time, the ghost's head hit the big tree in front and bounced back. The mouth really stinks. Link sealed the ghost's mouth with iron sand and said, how far is it? It'll be there soon. The sunwheel knife fell in front before I saw it. Suddenly the girl screamed, so she ran over to find the sunwheel knife that fell on the ground. The girl picked up the knife and looked at it, then came to Link with the knife in her arms and said, I'll kill him now. Link nodded. In the next second, the girl pulled out the knife and slashed at the ghost's head. The ghost begins to turn into ashes. It's amazing. Link looked at it for a while and then slowly raised his head. He saw a figure falling from the sky. This person looked like a butterfly, and it still looked dreamy. The moon also seems to set off this person, who is a woman in terms of figure. At this time, a butterfly-like person landed in front of Link. This is a very beautiful person. Looking at her clothes, she probably looks like Butterfly Ninja. Butterfly looked at Link and said curiously, there will be ghosts at night, aren't you afraid? Ghosts act at night, and they are extremely powerful. Every time they appear, they will cause casualties. In the eyes of ghosts, human beings are just food, so people who wander around at night like Link are easily killed by ghosts. At this moment, Shoko Sakurai said, he's very powerful. Butterfly sized up Link and then suddenly drew her sword. She planned to test Link's strength, and if she was good, she was willing to include Link in the ghost-killing squad. Butterfly was stunned, because she felt a force pushing her knife away. Her strength was not strong, so she was forced to retreat directly. Butterfly looked at Link in surprise and said, this isn't breathing, is it? Link yawned and said, there are always some talented people who will gain superpowers. Controlling metal is my superpower, so as long as you use a knife, it is impossible to cut me. Is that so? Butterfly Ren gave up the knife, and then rushed to Link at an extremely fast speed. Butterfly Shinobi kicked towards Link, and Link took a step back to easily avoid Butterfly Shinobi's attack. Butterfly Ren was a little surprised that he was so strong without practicing the breathing method. If he learned the breathing method, wouldn't he take off directly? Butterfly Shinobi is a little happy. If Link can join the ghost-killing team, it will definitely be a big help. You can't be distracted by fighting. Link reached out and grabbed Butterfly Ninja by the neck, but pulled away before he could hold Butterfly Ninja firmly. Butterfly Shinobi picked up his knife and said, would you like to join the ghost-killing squad? Link was originally going to join the ghost-killing team to learn breathing techniques, so he nodded decisively and said, with great power comes great responsibility. So I am willing to be a member of the ghost-killing team to wipe out the nasty evil spirits. Shoko Sakurai on the side nodded a little touched. She felt that Link's awareness was very high. At this moment, Dai could not help but look at Link, feeling a little awkward, but it would be nice to be able to join the ghost-killing squad. If Peter Parker knew what Link said, Peter Parker would definitely take Link to see a doctor. About a day later, Link followed Butterfly Ninja to a large yard with many wooden houses in it. Butterfly looked at Link and said, then from tomorrow onwards, you can follow me to learn breathing techniques. Link nodded, and Butterfly arranged a room for him and then left, probably to tell others about his existence. After a while, a few little girls ran up to Link, probably hiding and watching Link. Link noticed a few girls and then took the initiative to smile and said, hello. Several girls were scared away. Link touched his head, isn't he handsome? Why are these girls scared away? No matter, take a break for a while. Link sat on the wooden floor and looked at the small pond not far away. After a while, several girls came over again, and one of the older girls said, "My name is Aoi Kanzaki, what about you?" "My name is Link, nice to meet you," Link said with a smile. Aoi Kanzaki is a little crazy. When he first saw Link, he thought he was a celestial being. Now that he smiles, he is completely a celestial being. But soon Kanzaki Aoi said, "It's time to eat, you come too." "Yeah," Link nodded and followed the steps of the girls. "My name is Kiyoshi Terauchi," a little girl said at this time. "Hello," Link said as gently as possible. He remembered that the families of these girls were all killed by evil spirits. Quote, "My name is Nakahara Chang, and her name is Takata Naho." At this time, another girl introduced herself, and also introduced the girls around her. Link responded to the girl gently. At this time, Aoi Kanzaki said, "Here we are. The main function of the breathing method is to strengthen the heart and lung function, so that the blood can absorb a large amount of oxygen in a short period of time, which can greatly increase the physical ability in an instant, and then temporarily have the physical ability comparable to that of a ghost." Link knows that if he learns this technique, his strength will be greatly improved. Butterfly Ninja taught the breath of water. In one day, Butterfly Ninja taught Link all the moves of water breathing. Of course, Link only memorized the poses and did not fully learn them. Although Butterfly Ninja the breath of worms was used, but it was derived from the breath of water. This is her exclusive breath. Obviously it is not very suitable for Link, so she taught Link the breath of water. However, at Link's request, Butterfly Ninja taught Link the breath of insects and the breath of flowers. According to Link, he wanted to find his own breath, so he needed other breathing methods as a reference. Flower breath is the breath used by Butterfly Shinobu's older sister, and now Kuri Hanarikana is using it. Basically, Link memorized all the knowledge of breathing methods in one day, but knowledge is not enough to practice breathing methods. He still needs a lot of practice to be able to use breathing methods better. Butterfly felt that Link was a little too impatient, and the breathing method should be practiced in a more calm state, otherwise the effect would be greatly reduced. So Butterfly Ren said after Link trained for a long time, "You should take a proper rest, and then observe the water surface." Link nodded and then put down the wooden knife. When using the breathing method, he did feel that his physical fitness was getting stronger, and his senses were also getting stronger. Link felt that he could easily destroy New York with full firepower in the breathing state. In short, because of the breathing method, Link broke through the limit of his previous strength. Even if he used the thunder state power before, he only had a punch of about 100 tons. And now the value of breathing method is inflated wildly. In short, now he can abuse the Hulk under normal circumstances at will. But now he is not very proficient in the breathing method, so the strengthening of his body strength has not yet reached the best state. Link feels that as long as he can use the breathing method well, then he will become very powerful. Link nodded and started practicing. Breathing, domineering, these are things he needs to learn, and he has not disappeared yet. If it was before, he might have disappeared long ago. Link reckons that traveling through time has something to do with mental power and will. He used to go back soon, but now he has been here for nearly 2 days and still hasn't disappeared, so he guessed that it has something to do with mental power and will. Let's compare, Aoi Kanzaki said at this time. She wanted to show her presence and make Link respect her a little bit, after all, she was a senior. Link nodded and said, "Okay. It is also a good choice to compete with others." Link picked up the wooden knife and looked at the little girl in front of him and said, "I will not show mercy." Aoi Kanzaki couldn't help but said, "Who asked you to release the water? Don't underestimate me." Aoi Kanzaki looked at Link with a wooden knife. She wanted to let Link know how powerful Senior is. Butterfly suppressed a smile and said, "Then I will be the referee." Link and Aoi Kanzaki have no objection to Butterfly Ninja being the referee. Butterfly Shinobi waited for the two to get ready to fight and said, "Start." Link rushed to Aoi Kanzaki in an instant, and it didn't take much strength to deal with the little girl in front of him. Link is basically using his basic abilities now, without using magic enhancements, and without using the thunder attribute God's Eye. So fast. Aoi Kanzaki was a little surprised. Link in front of him hasn't used the breathing method yet, right? Why do you have such speed without using pranayama? Aoi Kanzaki suddenly understood why Chozoju Butterfly Shinobu-sama wanted Linka to join the Demon Slayer squad. The basic speed and strength are already so terrifying, so if he fully learns the breathing method, he will probably become a pillar in one fell swoop. Aoi Kanzaki stepped heavily on the ground trying to distance herself, but Link's speed suddenly increased. Feeling Link's strange breathing, she instantly understood that Link was using the breath of insects. Link's speed increased sharply in an instant, and the wooden knife was on Kanzaki Aoi's neck in the next second. Link smiled and said, "I won." Aoi Kanzaki nodded to show that she lost. In her opinion, Link is a monster, maybe even more powerful than a ghost. Such a monster can definitely injure the ghost. Not bad. Butterfly couldn't help but said, Link didn't expect to master a little bit of worm's breath so quickly. Link is a very talented person. Afterwards, Butterfly Ninja handed the prepared solar knife to Link. Link took the sun wheel knife. His knife is aqua blue, probably because the breathing method he learned is water breath and the derivative breath of water breath, so the sun wheel knife became aqua blue. He waved it and said, "A very sharp knife." Butterfly Ninja nodded and said, "The ghost-slaying knife must be sharp." Butterfly then taught Link some tricks about breathing. After Ninja Butterfly left, Link began to recall what Ninja Butterfly said, and then began to practice. After finishing the practice, Link sat in the wooden house and began to rest. At this time, he noticed Lihua Luakanahu who was sitting on the side. She is the stepson of Butterfly Ninja, and she is still very strong. Lihua Luoxiong is very sensitive, so when she noticed Link's gaze, she tilted her head and looked at Link in confusion. Is there anything about herself that attracts Link? Looking at the confused girl, Link said, "Hello, my name is Link." It turned out to be a self-introduction. Lihua Luoxiongnihu said, "My name is Lihua Luoxiongnihu, and I am your senior sister." Link looked at Lihua Luoxiongni. Is she obsessed with the word senior sister? Link then asked about other zoos, and Lihua Luoxiongni told Link everything she knew about zoos very simply and basically without hiding anything. Link touched his chin, wishing he could learn all the breathing techniques. Ganroji Mitsuri is Butterfly Shinobu's good friend, so what I have the best chance to learn is the breath of love of the love pillar Ganroji Mitsuri. But how to make the other party give him the breath of love? Ganluji Mitsuri seems to like eating very much, so if I tempt her with food, can I let her teach me the breath of love? Link wants to temporarily close the distance between himself and Ganluji Mitsuri, and then ask her to teach him the breath of love after the relationship has reached a certain level. This is so delicious. How did you do it? Kanroji Mitsuri said excitedly. Although it is a bowl of ramen, it tastes extremely delicious. This is the first time for Kanroji Mitsuri. Such delicious food. While feasting on Miri in Ganlu Temple, Link showed a kind smile on the side and said, "Master Leonju, can you teach me how to breathe in Leonju?" Link prepared a lot of delicious food just to let Ganluji Miri teach him the method of breathing of love. It seems that it should be okay. Looking at Link's handsome appearance, Ganluji Mitsuri panicked, and made up a lot of small theaters in her mind. The same Ganlu Temple Mitsuri is thinking about whether to teach Link to love the breath. Link is very talented. She has heard that Butterfly Ninja said that, but if she teaches Link, then he will not prepare such delicacies for himself in the future. What to do? How about teaching Link a little bit every time, and then Link prepares her delicious food in exchange? That's it. Ganluji Mitsuri nodded and said, "Yes, but you have to prepare something delicious for me." "No problem at all," Link said happily, and Mitsuri of Ganlu Temple is still relatively good. 3 hours later, Kanroji Mitsuri touched her belly and said, "I'm so happy today." Link said, "Just teach me how to breathe, then you will be happier in the future." Happier? Is it for your own husband? If he becomes her husband, he should prepare delicious food for her every day. This kind of thought is indeed very happy. But I only met Link a few times, so I asked for marriage. It's fun, but it's not enough. Feelings still take time to develop. Ooh, this guy usually only knows how to practice, but now he's trying to curry favor with Master Leonju for the sake of breathing. This guy is too shameless. Aoi Kanzaki said viciously. Obviously she worked hard every day for Lin K prepares food. This guy not only didn't thank himself, but also pulled her to train together, and then beat her 3 times, 5 times, 2 times. Do you know that she is also trying to save face? The 3 little ones on the side also nodded. At this time, Leonju began to teach Link Leonji the method of breathing. Leonju left half an hour later, and Link silently looked at Leonju and left. Leonju only taught him a little method, and Link didn't have any objections, as long as she taught him anyway. At this time, Aoi Kanzaki came out with the three little ones. Aoi Kanzaki said, "I didn't expect you to be very good at pleasing people." Link cast aside Kanzaki Aoi and said, "Well, after all, I want to practice the breathing of love, so I naturally have to distance myself from Leonju. Otherwise, why would she teach a stranger the breath of love for no reason?" Aoi Kanzaki thinks this is a kind of flattery and bribery. Kanzaki Aoi poked her waist and said, "There is no masculinity at all. A big man should stand upright." Link didn't pay attention to Aoi Kanzaki, he recalled what Yenju said, and then left quickly. He waved his hand and said, "I'm going to practice, thank you for helping me prepare food every day." Aoi Kanzaki looked at the back of Link leaving and said, "What is this?" Aoi Kanzaki was very happy to hear Link's words, at least this guy would say thank you, which made her much less depressed. Link held the sunwheel knife and looked at the boulder in front of him. Link's breathing began to become rhythmic, and Link's breath began to become gentle, like the sea that could accept everything. Link suddenly slashed open. The blade sliced through the air and then easily cut off the boulder. Link exhaled, it was the perfect blow. "It's perfect, so you should go to the assessment." At this time, Butterfly Shinobi said, "Lihualuoxiongnihu and Link both need to pass the assessment before they can enter the ghost-killing team." Link nodded and said, "Let's go now." Butterfly Shinobu nodded and said, "She's already waiting for you when we go out now." Link put away the knife and said, "Then goodbye, master." Link ran away quickly, and he saw Li Waluochanai playing with butterflies outside the door. Lihualuoxiongnihu left with Link when she saw Link come out. Lihualuoxiongnihu is very quiet, and basically doesn't talk to Link very much. Link also likes this kind of quietness, so the two of them were very quiet along the way. But when they passed by a village at night, both Link and Lihualuochanahu smelled ghosts. Link and Li Waluoshongnihu immediately prepared to deal with this ghost. Both Link and Lihualuoxiong could smell a faint smell of blood in the air. This bloody smell emanated from a big house. Link quickly jumped into the mansion, and then he saw an extremely bloody scene. A female evil spirit is gnawing at the body of a young man. The young man is dead, but his eyes are wide open, and his eyes are full of anger, as if he wants to tear the evil spirit into pieces. At this time, the female evil ghost turned her head, she looked at Link and Lihualuo and said, "You are the ghost-slaying team. It's really good. I will eat you and serve my lord." Quote, blood has dripped from the ghost's face recently, and the originally pretty face now looks a little disgusting. The ghost's eyes fell on Link's face and thought for a while before saying, "It's a pity to eat like this, or I will let the adults turn you into a ghost." Link pulled out the sunwheel knife and walked towards the ghost step by step. This ghost is sure to kill him. The female ghost touched her lips and said, "It seems that I want to teach you a lesson." After the female ghost finished speaking, she rushed towards Link. Link began to swing the blade. The female ghost and Link's body are staggered. The female ghost touched her body and said, "Is this the only way?" "It's really, ah." The female ghost suddenly screamed in pain, and quickly turned into ashes. Link put away the knife and said, "Bury them." Lihualuoxiongna nodded. Link's attack was so fast just now that she didn't even catch it. I'm afraid Link's strength is no less than Zu, and may even be stronger than ordinary Zu. 7 people in this family were killed by evil spirits, and 3 of them were children, and the youngest was just a baby. These ghosts really make people angry. Link and Lihualuoxiongni buried the people here and then left. Lihualuoshongnihu said at this time, "Calm down your mind." She noticed that Link seemed to be angry, and this anger even affected Link's breathing. Although the change was very subtle, she still noticed it. At this time, as a senior sister, she should restore Link to calm. Link and Lihualuoxiong arrived at their destination not long after the evil spirits were dealt with. Link and Karuka were not the latest to arrive. At this time, he glanced at the crowd and found Tanjiro Kamado, and my wife Zenitsu with yellow hair. Link looked at it and didn't pay too much attention to it, but hoped that he would have the opportunity to learn his breathing method in the future. Link felt like he was about to leave, disappear from this world and return to the Marvel Universe. Ghost. Hope this time can solve some more ghosts. After a few minutes, everyone arrived. The assessment of the Ghost Slayer squad has officially begun. Link and Li Hualuo walked in. The road they walked was a sea of purple flowers. These flowers are nothing to humans but poisonous to ghosts, so people caught some ghosts here to supply them. People come to check. Although it was an assessment, Link still felt that it was a bit too strict. After all, many people had died here, and death because of the assessment was very strict and dangerous, but there were still many people who came to the assessment. Some people choose to be a member of the ghost slaying team because of the excellent treatment of the ghost slaying team, some are looking for challenges, and some people hate evil ghosts and then go hunting ghosts. After a while, Link and Li Hualuo passed through the sea of purple flowers. At this time, in front of them was a gloomy forest. The forest looked gloomy, and it was indeed very suitable for ghosts to live in. Ghost. Although he sensed quite a few evil spirits just outside the forest, there were 11 of these evil spirits who must have been expecting to tear up the people who participated in the assessment and then eat them. Link's breathing gradually became rhythmic. At this time, Li Hualuoxiang's eyes fell on Link. He became more and more proficient in the use of breathing techniques, and he became stronger every moment. Li Hualuoxiang felt that Link would become very powerful in the future. I'll deal with them. Link started to move quickly after finishing speaking. Li Hualuo nodded. She only needs to survive here to pass the level. So there is no need to hunt down ghosts, but if she encounters a ghost, she will kill it without hesitation. Link was moving at high speed at this time, and a ghost found him. The ghost licked his lips and said, "I'm already very hungry, and I almost can't even stand still. I didn't expect you to be willing to deliver it to your door. It's so sweet. I will eat you up without any leftover." The ugly face of ghosts makes people sick, and there is no self-knowledge that they think that they are invincible if they have the power of ghosts. It is really superficial. Link's figure landed in front of the ghost and then jumped into the distance in an instant. Link had already swung the blade and chopped off the ghost's head in an instant, but because the speed was too fast, the ghost died before he could even react. There are still many ghosts, so Link doesn't want to waste time, he has to kill more ghosts. These ghosts were already weak, but now they met Link, the god of death, they were just unlucky. Half an hour later, Link had killed 30 ghosts, all of them with one blow. So far no Oni can resist his blow. A ghost witnessed his companion being easily beheaded by Link, which made him extremely flustered, and he ran away from Link in a frenzy. But in the next second, the feeling of hairs bursting swept through his body and mind, and he was enveloped by a strong killing intent. What a terrifying killing intent. The ghost couldn't help but think of the past. The successful ghost has been around for many years, maybe 100 years. He didn't remember very clearly, but some memory fragments became clearer. His father watched him with a painful expression, and beside him was his mother, who seemed to be saying something with her trembling mouth lying in a pool of blood. "Don't worry about me, I just want to sleep for a while." The sharp blade sliced across the ghost's neck, and Link moved forward quickly without stopping. "Are you going to die? Death without pain is also a kind of happiness." The ghost's body fell to the ground. A few hours later, Link wiped his knife. At this time he had killed all the ghosts. Although Link solved many ghosts, some people died in this assessment, and some people chose to quit after understanding the horror of ghosts. After passing the assessment, Link handed the knife to Li Hualuoxiang and said, "Please keep it for me for a while, I have to deal with some things." Li Hualuoxiang nodded. She didn't know what Link was going to do, but she believed that Link would come back. After all, he hadn't learned all the breathing techniques yet. Seeing the chestnut blossom falling, Link nodded and quickly left. About half an hour later, Link's body began to dissipate, and he was going back. Spider Shadow looked down at Link. At this moment Link had already opened his eyes, and Spider Shadow was obviously blinded by Link's sudden opening of his eyes. Link looked at the Spider Shadow close at hand and said, "What's wrong?" The Spider Shadow quickly pulled away and said, "I wanted to tease you, but I didn't expect you to suddenly open your eyes, and you were frightened." Spider Shadow's eyes drifted a little, like a lying child. "Don't be too naughty." Link knocked on Spider Shadow's head and left the room. He was going to wash up. This trip took a long time, obviously it was just one night here, but it passed in another world for several days. The flow of time was different. This can be considered lucky. Link looked at himself in the mirror. He was as handsome as ever, and he was in a good state of mind. What would he do next? Oh, after breakfast, I will go to practice magic. Practice magic for a while, then practice breathing, and then play in the next time. Everything should be combined with work and rest. Link walked out of the bathroom a moment later. At this time, Spider Shadow was sitting on the sofa and reading a book. She looked very serious. Link didn't bother Spider Shadow either. He started preparing breakfast. Afterwards, Link invited Spider Shadow to have breakfast together. Spider Shadow nodded, although she can exist without food, but now she is used to eating with Link. Also, the food Link cooks is really delicious, probably because he often cooks alone. Link received a call from Peter Parker just after breakfast. What's the matter? Link said. Saturday and Sunday were the last time he wanted to see Peter Parker, because he would cause trouble at any time. Want to come out to play? Peter Parker said. Link touched his chin and said, I want to learn magic, so I won't go. Always felt like Peter Parker was going to cause trouble. All right then. Peter Parker hung up the phone. Chapter 71. Link learns magic in the room, and as his understanding of magic deepens, he has time to feel that some simple magic is the most practical. For example, change magic, which is considered a very simple magic, but there are very few people who can do it to Link's level. Transformation magic is mostly used by mages to change themselves, but Link can be used to defuse the enemy's attack, which is very powerful. Link snapped his fingers, and in an instant flowers began to appear in the room. The furniture turned into flower bushes, and the cups turned into delicate roses. Spider Shadow widened his eyes and said, Magic is amazing. Magic seems to be more miraculous than science. Hearing what the Spider Shadow said, Link said, I'll teach you magic. Spider Shadow resolutely shook her head and refused. Although magic is amazing, she wants to study technology more. It may be because Link is good at technology, so she intends to make up for what Link is not good at. But she really likes technology. Link's home turned into a sea of flowers at this time. After thinking about it, he snapped his fingers, and then the sea of flowers began to disappear. After a few minutes the room had fully returned to normal. Link touched his chin and said, Magic. There is still a lot to explore. Link put down the spellbook and looked at the ceiling. Suddenly someone knocked on the door. Link got up to open the door, and Spider Shadow entered the shadows. Hi. Link opened the door and found that the person outside the door was Peter Parker, and Peter Parker looked at him happily. Hi. At this time, Avril Lavigne came out from behind Peter Parker wearing a sun hat. Avril Lavigne looked a little petite, but she was still quite cute. Link noticed that Avril seems a little too close to Peter Parker. This distance is not the distance of ordinary friends, this distance is obviously beyond the distance of friends becoming lovers. Link touched his chin and said, Are you dating? Peter Parker nodded. He met Avril last night and was violently molested by Avril, and immediately thought she was cute. And Avril also noticed Peter Parker's emotions, so she said, Why don't you try dating? So Peter Parker nodded in agreement. That's right, you have no chance to become my boyfriend, so don't cry alone. Avril Lavigne became somewhat daring after her association with Peter Parker. Link still feels a little baffled. Doesn't Peter Parker have someone he likes? Why did you suddenly date Avril Lavigne? Is there something hidden? Link always felt that there was something hidden, but forget it, he didn't have extra thoughts to think about Peter Parker and Avril Lavigne. He said, Not at all, and why do you come to me? Isn't dating good? Quote. Something is wrong. If these two guys are dating, they should go on a date. Why do you want to find yourself? What is your idea? Peter Parker looked at Avril Lavigne and said, I have a surprise for you. Surprise? Is it scare? Link said at this time, I received the surprise, so can you leave? I still have to study. Avril couldn't help but said at this time, Are you kidding? You know how to study. I heard that you don't even study. Magic. Learn magic. Link couldn't help saying, Oh, that's it. Avril Lavigne nodded. But in the end Avril Lavigne and Peter Parker still did not leave. They entered Link's house. Link couldn't help but said, What's the matter? Avril looked at Peter Parker and said, Recently, other vampires have come here and started attacking humans. We want you to solve the vampires. The vampires that Avril Lavigne mentioned are different vampires from them. This vampire brought them troubles when they came, but the Avril Lavigne family was not very strong, so they turned to Link for help. They hoped that Link could solve this alien vampire. Vampires, of course they will pay. Link touched his chin and said, "Can you tell me more about it?" Avril nodded and said, "This is a very powerful vampire, but he is still very afraid of the sun. The only thing that can kill him is the sun. He killed 3 people at the latest. Peter and him fought briefly. However, the vampire escaped very slipperily. In terms of strength, the vampire was a little worse than Peter, and even a little less agile, but this vampire had so many strange abilities that Peter couldn't handle it. So we've come to you. Someone who studies magic should be able to take care of this vampire." Quote. Link suddenly said at this moment, "Why are you 2 vampires so much weaker?" Avril smiled wryly and said, "We are not afraid of the sun, but the price is that we are not as strong as vampires of other races. Although they are powerful, they cannot walk in the sun. Generally speaking, I think we are very lucky. Although we are a little weaker, it is a very happy thing to be able to walk under the sun." Quote. Vampire. And also killed people, which reminded him of ghosts. The same ghosts went around killing people. Link touched his chin and said, "How much do you pay?" 2,000 million. Avril said, "Money is nothing to them. This little money can only be regarded as pocket money for her." In fact, the vampire elder gave Avril $1 million, let her solve the trouble vampire. Because the appearance of this vampire made their position much more dangerous, they desperately hoped that Link could solve this vampire. Link nodded and said, "Yes. 2,000 million. Enough to last him a lifetime." Avril Lavigne breathed a sigh of relief and said, "So what do you think? Any ideas? Wouldn't it be enough to catch the murderous vampire and kill it?" Link said casually. Avril curled her lips and said, "Although you are very powerful, the evil vampires are not weak, so you have to be careful." Avril was a little worried that Link would suffer because of his carelessness. "Yeah, got it." Link nodded, but he didn't pay much attention, because he is super strong now. A sneaky vampire didn't bother him much. After a while, Link said, "Anything else?" Avril touched her head and smiled and said, "Why don't you go to my house?" Link shook his head and said, "Not going." Avril sighed and said, "Then I will leave the vampire business to you." "Yeah." Link nodded. Avril Lavigne notifies Link of the alien vampire's location just before dark. Link walked into the shadows for a moment before he stepped out of the shadows beside Avril Lavigne. Avril Lavigne said, "Did you see it? The man in the black windbreaker in the distance is a vampire from outside." Link nodded. This foreign vampire looked pale. "I'll leave it to you," Avril Lavigne said, "because this foreign vampire has made their status more subtle, and even some people have begun to be dissatisfied. Why do they have so many privileges as vampires? In fact, it is all money for them to get so many privileges." Ability result. Link nodded and his breathing began to become rhythmic. Avril felt that Link's breath had changed, becoming more dangerous and calm. Link jumped down in the next second, and he wanted to deal with the foreign vampires as quickly as possible. As soon as Link set off, Avril said, "Aren't you going to help?" There was a shadow squirming around Avril, and the spider shadow came out after a while. She looked at the fast-moving Link and said, "The master is very strong, so I don't need my help." Avril looked at Spider Shadow. It seemed that Spider Shadow trusted Link very much. Before she knew that Link had extraordinary power, she always thought that Link was just a jerk. After all, he looked very honest, as if I was a jerk. After getting to know Link a little bit, you will find that he is not a bad guy at all, but a very dangerous monster. At this time, the vampire who was looking for prey noticed something. He just turned around and saw Link's outstretched hand. In the next second, Link directly slapped the vampire to the ground. The powerful force smashed a big hole in the ground. The vampire was dizzy at this moment. At this time, Link used transformation magic, and the vampire was turned into a small bat. Then Link threw it into a small bottle, which was specially made by Link, so vampire need to escape is almost impossible. Link came to Avril Lavigne with the small bottle and said, "I'll leave it to you." Avril nodded and said, "Thank you." Link's speed was too fast, and he didn't have half a minute to catch this vampire. Is this really the power that humans can possess? He also said that we are monsters, and some perverted human beings are even more terrifying, right? Avril took the bottle and said that she would hand over the vampire to the elders. Link nodded, and Avril could do whatever she wanted with the vampire. Then Avril left quickly. Link's eyes fell on Avril's graceful figure. Peter Parker should be very happy, right? So go home now. Link stepped into the shadows, and a moment later he was home. Link started playing the game after a few minutes because there was nothing else to do. In a few days, Link yawned and went to school. Recently, Peter Parker seemed to have a little conflict with Avril Lavigne. Peter Parker always asked about Avril Lavigne through him. A few minutes later, Link met Avril. Avril saw Link and said, "Do you think it's more important to be a girlfriend or a stranger?" Avril looked at Link seriously. During the time she was with Peter Parker, she dated Peter Parker 7 times and 6 times. This made her somewhat uncomfortable, but Peter Parker kept silent, which made her she began to think about this relationship. Link looked at Avril and said, "It must be the girlfriend that is important, but you have to know that Peter is Spider-Man. If other people's lives are in danger, then he will definitely help, so please be considerate of him." Avril was stunned for a moment and then said, "I remember, I want to break up with him. It's good for him to be a superhero in peace, and I'll just be a gloomy character." Link looked at Avril Lavigne and said, "Just don't regret it." Noon. Peter Parker and Avril Lavigne were talking about something in the classroom. At the same time, Link and Annie are sitting together having lunch, and Annie and Link are very close. Gwen Stacy was eating in silence, and she noticed Link's slightly helpless expression. Gwen Stacy knew that Link didn't like Annie's intimate behavior. Gwen Stacy thought for a while and then said, "Annie, you have actually achieved your goal. Haven't there been basically no men harassing you recently? So you don't need to be like this anymore." Quote. At this moment, Michelle Jones nodded and said, "That's true. In fact, we all know that you and Link are a fake couple." "Huh, a fake couple," Mary Jane said in surprise. She never noticed it. Ned sensed an unusual atmosphere, and he got up numbly and said, "I'm going to the toilet." Just as Link wanted to get up and say something, Annie stopped him. Annie looked at Link and said, "Wait for a while." Link nodded. Afternoon. Link sat on the sofa thinking about Gwen Stacy's confrontation with Annie. Although it was just a verbal confrontation, Link felt a punch to the flesh. It turns out that Anne and Gwen Stacy's can be so sharp. Link doesn't understand Gwen Stacy's feelings for him. Sometimes he feels that Gwen Stacy likes him, but sometimes he feels that Gwen Stacy just likes the pleasure of being with him, and not like him. Girls are so troublesome. If Link doesn't think too much, he should read more magic books. Time passed little by little. Suddenly Link heard a knock on the door. He got up and opened it and saw Gwen Stacy, who seemed to be in a bad mood. Link let Gwen Stacy in, then closed the door and said, "Why are you here?" Gwen Stacy looked at Link and said, "Can't you come?" Link. He felt that Gwen Stacy's attitude was a bit choking. Was it because of what happened today? Link said, "Want something to drink?" Gwen Stacy bit her lip and approached Link. She hugged Link and said, "I want it." Link looked back at Gwen Stacy at this moment and said, "What is our relationship?" "It's about stealing the forbidden fruit," Gwen Stacy said. Does Gwen Stacy just see herself as such? Night. Gwen Stacy waved to Link and said, "See you tomorrow." Link nodded and said, "See you tomorrow." Gwen Stacy rubbed her head and said too many confused words today. She likes Link, but she calls this relationship a bedmate. What a fool. After getting up in the morning, Link came to the living room and said, "What do you want to eat today?" Spider Shadow thought for a while and said, "Okay." A few minutes later, Link casually prepared a little breakfast and ate it with Spider Shadow. The Spider Shadow said, "Master, do you know what the old king next door is?" "Ah, why did you ask this all of a sudden?" Link said, "Of course he knows the old king next door. Everyone is afraid of the old king next door but wants to be the old king next door." Spider Shadow said, "Nothing." Link didn't care either. He finished eating and said, "Let's go to school together." Spider Shadow tilted his head and said, "Aren't you afraid that other people will know?" Link looked at the Spider Shadow and said, "It's okay. No, there will be a lot of trouble, goodbye." After eating, Spider Shadow went to school through the shadows. Link packed his things and left as well. Then he saw that Emily and Jasmine Jowlin were walking together. These days, the relationship between Emily and Jasmine Jowlin was developing rapidly, and they were often together recently. Emily and Jasmine Jowlin also noticed Link, and Emily said normally, "Good morning." Link nodded and said, "Hello. Hey, you're not following us, are you?" "Ah la la. Does the little pervert just like you so much?" Shaolin Molly said. Link dismissed Jasmine Lin and said, "Mentally retarded. How could he be a pervert?" At this time, Jasmine Jowlin approached Link and said with a smirk, "If you beg me, I'm willing to give you some rewards." Linka distanced himself and said, "No need." So Jasmine Jowlin kept harassing Link on the way to school. "Goodbye, idiot," Jasmine Jowlin said when they parted. Link couldn't help but look back at Jasmine Lin, only to find that Jasmine Lin left with a coquettish smile. This guy is boring enough. Link saw Gwen Stacy the first time he returned to the classroom. This made him couldn't help but think about what happened last night. "Why are you in a daze?" Michelle Jones bumped Link's back at this moment, but she didn't use any force. Link touched his back and said, "I'm thinking about life." Thinking about life. Are you thinking about how to catch fish?" Peter Parker said at this time. Peter Parker's words were echoed. Link couldn't help but said, "Not at all." Afternoon. Link put on the nanosuit and said, "It's time to go." Peter Parker nodded. Because the crime rate in their city has been declining recently, this is their recognition. Link was later separated from Spider Shadow and Peter Parker. Link moved quickly between tall buildings for a while, and he saw a familiar figure, which was Gwen Stacy, Michelle Jones, and Mary Jane walking together. Link didn't pay too much attention to it, but just thought it was a bit of a coincidence. "What are you looking at?" Avril Lavigne's voice suddenly sounded from behind Link. Link looked back at Avril silently and said, "Why are you so scary?" Avril looked at Link and said, "I think your daily tasks are quite interesting, so I'll take a look." Link curled his lips and said, "What's so interesting?" At this time, Avril suddenly yelled and said, "Do you think that is a robbery?" Avril pointed in one direction. Link looked over and found that a group of robbers were robbing the bank. Link sighed and said, "This bank has been robbed several times, and the staff inside are almost used to it." Avril Lavigne said in surprise, "Do you often get robbed?" Link nodded, "Basically twice a month." At the same time, "The bank staff is very cooperative with the robbers. Anyway, Spider-Man will fall from the sky and knock down these robbers in a while, so they only need to lose weight. After all, this will reduce a lot of danger." The robbers also felt a little strange. Were these staff too cooperative? "But forget it, you can get the money." At this moment, a staff member said, "He's here." "What's coming?" A robber couldn't help but said, "Could it be the police?" At this time, the staff said slightly excitedly, "He is a hero, an elegant superhero, you are destined to fail." The robber couldn't help but said, "I used to be a mercenary. Don't underestimate me." Subtle current sound. The robbers are still intimidating the staff. In the next second, the staff showed a playful smile. The robber hurriedly turned his head and saw Link wearing a nano suit. The robber instinctively pulled the trigger, but what came out was a rose. Link knocked down the robber with one punch, and the staff immediately said, "Thank you very much." Link curled his lips and said, "Is your feng shui bad here? Why do you always get robbed?" The staff showed a helpless expression and said, "Maybe." Link then left quickly, and the police came after a while, and Link noticed that Gwen Stacy's father was there. Link looked at it and didn't stop too much because Gwen Stacy's father obviously didn't like Link and them. Link left quickly. As soon as he climbed to the top of the building, Avril came to her side. She said, "It seems very interesting." Link's eyes lit up and he said, "How about you come to uphold justice? So he can go back and rest." Avril looked at Link and said, "You still like to be lazy. But this is not good. And I am sleepy." Avril turns into a little bat and leaves quickly. Link let out a breath and resumed his patrol. Nothing major happened after that. Link joins Peter Parker and Spider Shadow at the end of the 2 hours. Link and Peter Parker left after a short chat. Link went home, but Spider Shadow went to learn from Tony Stark. When Link got home, he lay on the sofa and read the magic book. Suddenly he saw a magic called. Link turned the pages silently, and he turned back after a while. After a few minutes, Link felt that this was a magic worth studying. After a long time, someone knocked on the door. Link silently used perspective magic, and then he saw Jasmine Lin standing outside the door. Jasmine Lin was holding a small basket. What is she wearing today? After a while, Link covered his nose. Jasmine Lin was completely naked. What is this guy doing? Open the door quickly. I know you're back, Shaolin Moli said. Link got up and opened the door, and then he didn't dare to look at Jasmine Lin. Although this guy was a bit annoying, his figure was very hot, and he couldn't tell it at all. I want to take a shower. Shaolin Jasmine just took off all her clothes and found out that the water heater at home was broken, so she came here wearing a long skirt. Anyway, Link couldn't see inside, and it was so exciting. Oh, Link wiped his nosebleed and said. Link wiped his nosebleed and began to read the magic book silently. Jasmine Shaolin. Why are you in such a good shape? Link got up and started doing push-ups so he could divert his attention a little. 1, 2, 3. Gradually, Link began to do push-ups without distraction. A long time later Link lay on the floor, blocking his view with one arm. What are you doing? At this moment, Jasmine Lin, who was holding a basket, crouched a little behind Link's head. Jasmine Shaolin stretched out her hand and poked Link's head. From this distance, Link could clearly smell Jasmine Shaolin's body, which had a sweet and fragrant smell. She used to smell pretty good. Link thought about it. Sometimes she is not annoying, and sometimes she is very cute. Ah la la, are you fantasizing about something forbidden by the 18th century? What a pervert, Shaolin Moli said with a smirk. Okay, I really don't like her. Link was about to raise his head, but Jasmine Lin gently pressed Link's head with her hand. Link didn't intend to listen to Jasmine Shaolin's words, he planned to keep getting up. Please, don't get up, Shaolin Moli suddenly said in a low voice. Shaolin Jasmine's voice sounded very sad. Did she find out what happened? Jasmine Kobayashi's low and sad voice successfully made Link stop standing up. He lay silently on the floor. Jasmine Lin also sat on the floor. She straightened her legs and slowly placed Link's head on her lap. Jasmine Shaolin gently stroked Link's hair. Link was surrounded by a sweet smell, and Jasmine Shaolin's thighs were so soft, her touch was also very comfortable. It seems to be sleeping. Link closed his eyes and gradually fell asleep. Jasmine Shaolin smiled at this moment, and gently stroked Link's face. If it wasn't for this handsome face, she wouldn't have paid any attention to Link. Jasmine Shaolin knew that Link had fallen asleep when she heard Link's subtle breathing. In other words, now she can do bad things. Jasmine Shaolin lowered her head and kissed Link. Then she smiled. Is she considered a Tauren now? Jasmine Shaolin touched Link's lips with her fingers, but the movement should not be too big or Link would wake up. Does Jasmine Shaolin like Link? Of course I like it. After all, he is handsome, someone who can't be forgotten just by looking at him. Jasmine Shaolin had already left when Link woke up. Link is in very good spirits now, so he plans to play games all night. But just after playing a few rounds of the game, Avril came to Link's house. She came in through the window in the form of a bat. Her eyes fell on Link's game screen. She thought about it and then prepared to sneak attack Link. She wanted to suck Link's blood. Just as she was about to get his hand, Link reached out and grabbed her. Link looked at the little bat in his hand and said, "What do you want to do?" The little bat left Link's palm and turned into Avril Lavigne. She said with a smile, "I'm hungry for action. Do you want to suck your own blood when you are hungry?" Link frowned and said, "Didn't I say no to this? Who knows if you have any strange infectious diseases?" Avril sat on Link's bed. She raised her legs and looked at Link and said seriously, "The feeling of being sucked by a vampire is more intense than having love. Are you sure you don't want to try it?" "No," Link said. Avril Lavigne's eyes fell on Link and said, "It's really boring." Link didn't pay attention to Avril Lavigne. He continued to play games. A few minutes later, Link ended a game. At this time, Avril turned off the power. She looked at Link's slightly unhappy face and said, "Let's go play." Avril Lavigne came to see Link to play, and she wanted to visit places with good scenery. "Don't go," Link said. "What fun is there for him at night? And he doesn't want to play. Isn't it good to play games at home?" Avril said, "Play with me, I will give you a good reward, how about it?" Avril Lavigne tempted Link like a demon. Sure enough, there was an expression on Link's face. After a few seconds, he nodded and said, "Then I will play with you as hard as I can." Avril smiled. The pair then ran into Peter Parker a few minutes later. Peter Parker was a little surprised when he saw Link and Avril together, and then he smiled and said, "What are you going to do?" There was nothing between Link and Avril, so he said calmly, "Avril paid me to play with her." This is indeed very Link's style. At this time Avril Lavigne said, "You really worked hard. There are still patrols at night." Peter Parker showed a wry smile. He broke up with Avril because he couldn't be with her, and Avril mostly interacted with him just to pass the time. "I can't help it," Peter Parker said. He didn't want to patrol, but what if someone needed help? Maybe his own help can save people, so thinking about it, he will come even if he doesn't want to. Avril Lavigne said, "Then goodbye." Avril strode forward. Link waved to Peter Parker and followed Avril's pace. Peter Parker touched Avril, who was watching, and left with Link. Avril took Link away and said, "Shall we go for a stroll?" Link clicked on Avril and Avril appeared behind Link. She hugged Link and flew towards the sky. "How about looking at the scenery from a high altitude, isn't it very nice?" Avril Lavigne said, "The brightly lit night scene is extraordinarily beautiful." Link nodded and said, "It's beautiful. The night view is beautiful, and looking down from a high altitude gives people a sense of openness." Link felt how small he was and how big the world was. Avril suddenly said, "It's time to speed up." "I see." As soon as Link finished speaking, Avril's speed began to increase. Although the speed was very fast, Link knew that his speed was much faster. But Avril's speed is also very fast. After flying to high altitude, Avril Lavigne said, "Goodbye." Avril let go of her hand, and Link fell from a height. The warm embrace was gone, and Link felt his heart beating for a moment, and then there was a sense of fear. But after a lot of hard work, Link regained his composure, and he wouldn't fall to his death at all. But he also said that it fell silently, and the wind was getting stronger. Eyes can hardly be opened. Avril Lavigne stared at Link and then suddenly accelerated and flew towards Link. Avril yelled Link's name loudly, and Link's eyes moved to Avril's body. Avril approached Link with the moonlight, and Avril looked like a moon elf at this time. Avril Lavigne and Link walked one after the other. Avril Lavigne is still happy today. Link walked silently, because he felt like he couldn't find a topic to chat with Avril. Because he couldn't find a topic to chat with, he kept silent, which was not bad. Avril suddenly stopped in her tracks. She looked back at Link and said, "Goodbye." Link raised his head and found that he followed Avril to a big villa unknowingly. Avril's family was indeed very rich. Link took a few glances and said, "Goodbye." Rich people. Now he is quite rich. After all, he is now a successful person with a net worth of more than 2,000 million. Link turned and left, and Avril turned and walked into the house. Link felt that the wind at night was quite cool, so he planned to walk home quickly, and it wouldn't take long anyway. Link walked for a while and saw a slightly familiar person. This slightly familiar person is Circe from the Eternal Race, and there is a man in front of her, probably her boyfriend or friend. Anyway, it's only one word away. When Link saw an acquaintance, he said, "Hi, Circe." Circe's eyes fell on Link and said, "Hi." What a coincidence. The man next to Circe's eyes fell on Link, as if he was thinking about something. At this time, the man suddenly lowered his voice and said, "He is very dangerous." Circe shook his head and said, "He's a good guy, as long as he shoots bad guys." Hearing Circe's words, the man frowned. It seemed that he was going to confront Link in the future. After all, their mission was to use this planet to incubate new Celestials, so this planet would inevitably be destroyed. At this time, Circe felt that the aura on Link's body was more dangerous, and she couldn't help but said, "You have become stronger again. It's surprising. Are you really human?" Facing Circe's surprise, Link said, "Humans are always getting stronger, so it's normal for me to become stronger." Link is indeed getting stronger all the time. Circe pointed to the man beside him and said, "His name is Icaris, and he is a member of the Eternal Protoss. He once protected humans for a long time. He is very powerful." Icarus's eyes fell on Link and said gently, "Hello." Icarus seemed like a good guy. Link nodded and said, "My name is Link." Icaris, if he remembers correctly, this guy wants to destroy this world and let new celestials be born. Link will naturally not let Ikaris destroy this world, but Circe will stop him, so Lin KK wasn't too worried. Ikaris was a little surprised in his heart. Although there are many strong humans in human beings, he still thinks that humans are weak, but now after facing Link directly, he realizes that the humans in front of him don't seem to be weak at all. At this time, Ikaris smiled and said, "How about we play a game?" He wanted to test how strong Link was. Circe's eyes widened and she said, "Link's just a kid. Although Link is good, he is obviously inferior to Ikaris in her opinion." Link smiled at Circe and said, "Yes, I also want to see how strong I am now." Circe sighed and said, "You can't fight here." Icarus flew up with Circe in his arms and said, "Need help?" "No need." Link's body slowly floated up, and he knew flying magic a long time ago. So the two figures flew towards the distance one after the other. A few minutes later, Ikaris chose a wide coast to fight. Link landed a moment later. Circe stepped aside and said, "Enough." Link nodded, and the nanometal covered his body little by little. Ikaris was thinking that it would be great if he could kill Link by mistake. Link and Ikaris looked at each other, and Circe said at this moment, "Then let's go." Bang bang. Ikaris was just getting ready to fight, and Link's two heavy punches hit him directly in the face. The huge force made him feel some pain. However, his body is found to be powerful, so if Link only has this kind of strength, then there is nothing to be afraid of. He is just a human being with a slightly faster speed. Ikaris silently looked for an opportunity to fight back. He could resist Link's fist, but Link might not be able to withstand his fist. As long as Link received a punch, he could kill Link directly. It is indeed the strongest eternal race here, not only attacking Galpy, but also very thick. Circe was once again surprised by Link. She didn't expect that Link's speed could suppress Ikaris, but such an attack was painless for Icarus. Suddenly, Icarus' eyes released lasers, and Link hurriedly dodged. Then the next second, Ikaris punched Link in the chest, and Link was sent flying in an instant. Link rolled on the beach several times before he stopped. Link seldom got deflated. Icarus's fist was really strong, and now he even felt very painful where he was hit. Link looked at the nano armor on his chest. The punch just now directly broke the nanometal on Link's chest. Icarus is very strong. Link silently put away the nano armor. "That's right, throw in the towel. Link, you can't beat Ikaris." Circe wants Link to admit defeat. Seeing Link put away the nano armor, Ikaris couldn't help but said, "Are you going to admit defeat?" Link said, "No, I'm going to use all my strength." Ikaris smiled and didn't say anything. No matter how powerful he was only human. Purple thunder began to jump from Link's body. He turned on the thunder mode. Gradually, Link's breathing became very rhythmic, and the thunder became more active. In the end, Link gave himself a strengthening spell, and now he has turned on the strongest mode. Icarus' eyes fired lasers again. Purple thunder pierced the shore, and for a moment Link appeared behind Ikaris. At this moment, Ikaris felt the danger. He turned around and found that Link's fist was enlarged in front of his eyes. Boom! In an instant, Ikaris was sent flying by Link. The huge force drove Ikaris directly into the rocky wall of the coast. The loud voice startled Circe. Looking at Link in front of him, he always felt that Link's speed was too fast, even comparable to the speed of another eternal race. At this time, a golden laser shot at Link, and Link took out a game coin and ejected it for an instant. Two rays of light collided in the air and annihilated each other. At this time, Ikaris flew to Link and punched Link. Too slow. Link avoided Icarus's fist and punched Ikaris in the face. The huge force directly hit Ikaris with a nosebleed. Is this really a power that humans possess? Being able to suppress one's own power, is this really a power that humans can have? Humans are really amazing, but the Celestials bred with human potential must be very powerful. Ikaris was a little crazy, and he couldn't accept being beaten by humans. Is this your strength? Link lifted Ikaris up and punched him flying. Ikaris landed heavily on the beach. Link's attack just now was not only powerful but also drove the power of lightning into his body. The purple thunder paralyzed him, making it difficult to use his strength. In the next second, Link turned into a purple electric current and knocked Ikaris flying again and again. I have to say that Icarus is very resistant to beating. Suddenly Circe ran in front of Icarus, and Link stopped attacking for a moment. Circe said, "Okay." Link looked at Circe and nodded, then said, "As expected of the eternal Protoss, you can force me to use my full strength." Circe smiled wryly. The boy in front of him was simply a monster, he couldn't be considered human at all. Icarus got up and touched his nose. Link had attacked very hard just now. Although he was injured, it was only a minor injury. Link's eyes fell on Icarus. This guy is really fleshy. His full attack just now only slightly injured him. It seems that he still needs to practice. Link then bids farewell to Circe and the two and returns home. Watching Link leave, Circe couldn't help but said, "Humans have really begun to have the power to protect themselves, and maybe they won't need human protection for a long time." Icarus looked at Circe and said, "There are only a small number of human beings with power." Link went home and washed up before going to sleep. The next morning, Link didn't sleep late, he got up early and started running. Icarus is very powerful, so he still needs to grow until he has the power to completely crush Icarus. The breathing method still needs to be practiced. Link feels that the breathing method has greatly improved him, as well as the control of the power of the thunder, and even magic. Will have the power to completely crush Icarus. Come on, come on, come on. Link just came to school when class was about to start, and he started class as soon as Link arrived. During class, Link took out his magic book and began to read it carefully. After class, Michelle Jones approached Link and said, "What's wrong with you today? Why do you feel weird?" Link looked at Michelle Jones and said, "I need to strengthen myself. There are many strong people in this universe, so I feel the pressure, so I plan to strengthen myself." Is that so? Michelle Jones touched her chin. Michelle Jones chatted with Link for a while and then went back to continue class. Link's serious appearance of reading books has surprised many teachers. You must know that Link is a person who basically doesn't study. Why does it feel strange to read books suddenly now? The teacher even asked Link to go to the office and have a talk. Afternoon, Link sat cross-legged on the top of the tall building, his eyes closed. At this time, he expanded his perception to cooperate with the power of the subtle thunder. The range of 10 kilometers nearby is all within Link's perception, and he has turned on the thunder mode, so he can run back and forth 10 laps in just a few seconds. However, this consumes a lot of energy, so the breathing method is trying to reduce the energy consumption, but it still consumes a lot. Now Link can only open this posture for 10 minutes. If the opponent is Icarus, then this guy can carry it for 10 minutes. 10 minutes, 3 minutes later he will become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Link began to practice breathing techniques. At the same time, a few kilometers away from Link, an out-of-control car is about to crash into the crowd, and someone will die if it crashes in. The driver in the vehicle was visibly petrified, as were the people in front of his vehicle. With the slight sound of electric current, people felt a slight numbness, and then a figure appeared. He stretched out his hand to touch the vehicle, and the out-of-control sports car turned into flower petals in an instant. He grabbed the owner of the car and put it on the ground. The figure disappeared in the next second. People looked at the petals all over the sky and felt a little overwhelmed. They had almost died just now, but now they were bathed in the petals all over the sky. The owner of the car breathed a sigh of relief. Although it was a pity that the car was gone, if he died, he would go to jail. In the next second, Link appeared on top of a tall building overlooking the city. However, not many people committed crimes in Link's place today. After 2 hours, Link joined Peter Parker and Spider Shadow. Peter Parker couldn't help but said, "Many people who commit crimes today feel exhausted." Today he feels that the number of people committing crimes has more than doubled. Hearing Peter Parker, Link said, "I've met very few." Link was a bit physically exhausted today, so he bid farewell to Peter Parker and went home to rest. Spider Shadow was also about to leave, when Peter Parker said, "Elise, do you feel that Link has something strange?" Peter Parker felt that Link was a little strange all day today, as if something was urging him to become stronger. He was a little worried about Link, so he asked Link, but Link didn't say anything, so he planned to ask about Spider Shadow. Spider Shadow froze for a moment. Although her name at school was Elise Stark, She was still more familiar with the name Spider Shadow, so she hesitated when Peter Parker called Elise by the name just now. But after realizing that she was calling herself, she looked back at Peter Parker and said, "I don't know, I won't ask about the master." Spider Shadow will not ask about Link, because she knows that Link can handle things well. Is that so? Peter Parker touched his chin. At this time, Spider Shadow said goodbye and left. Link just got home and lay down on the sofa to sleep. Turning on the thunder form for a long time is really exhausting. Link just wants to have a good rest now. Link woke up about 3 hours later, and now his physical strength and spirit have recovered very well, and he smelled the smell of food just after waking up. Before he could speak, someone said, "What happened today?" Link looked for the sound and found that it was Jasmine Lin. Jasmine Xiaolin crossed her arms and looked at Link, who had just woken up. Link rubbed his head and said, "Thank you." Jasmine Xiaolin looked at Link with a very helpful expression and said, "It took me a long time to make it, so you can eat this most delicious meal you have ever had with gratitude." Jasmine Xiaolin obviously put a lot of effort into this meal, and she was sure that Link would like it, which made Link suspect that her mother made this meal. After all, Jasmine Lin basically didn't cook, and her mom makes it almost every day. Link ate a little bit and then frowned, saying that it's not too delicious, it can only be regarded as mediocre. Link spoke his mind. Xiaolin Jasmine stepped on Link's foot and said, "Why do you look like a fool who came to find fault?" But Link's words also made her understand that her cooking skills were not very good. She thought her mother was lying to her before, but she didn't expect it to be true. Although the taste was not very good, Link still ate it, and then he expressed his gratitude to Jasmine Xiaolin. Xiaolin Jasmine didn't look very happy. Saturday. During the long-lost vacation, Link planned to go fishing to relax, but the intense practice these days had no effect at all, which made him feel that he might have found the wrong method, so he decided to relax and think about what he should do. Link took the equipment and rushed directly to the small river, and then he saw a surprising scene, a young man sitting on the bank, and there were at least 7 fishing rods beside him. Some amazing. Link silently walked to the shore and started fishing. After a while, he heard a movement. It was the young man's fishing rod. He excitedly picked up one fishing rod and planned to take back the line, but at this moment the other fishing rod also started to move. Then the young man also picked up the fishing rod with the other hand. Afterwards, other fishing rods also started to move one after another. At first, the young man hugged all of them and prepared to lift them up in one breath, but the next second the huge force from the fishing line directly dragged the young man into the river. Link saw clearly that it was a crocodile. The fish that bit the hook just now was eaten by the crocodile, so the young man was dragged into the river. But soon the crocodile broke free from the fishing line and left, and the young man returned to the shore in a panic. Link glanced at it and didn't look too much, and then Link would go home when he caught a fish. When Link returned home, he quickly turned the fish into a dish. Spider Shadow sat on the sofa and didn't know what kind of book he was reading. Link just said after getting ready for lunch, "You can come and eat." Spider Shadow put down the book and came to the dining table. Link still prepared a sumptuous lunch today. After a few sips, the taste is as delicious as ever. If Link becomes a chef, his business will be very good. Lunchtime is very happy, at least Link seems to be very happy. After Spider Shadow and Link had a full meal, they started to clean up the tableware. Because there were 2 of them, they cleaned the tableware in a short while. After that, Spider Shadow continued to sit on the sofa and read a book. Link also sat next to Spider Shadow and began to read the magic book. It was almost 2 o'clock when Link received a call from Peter Parker. Peter Parker asks what Link should do when he goes to the museum next Monday. Link said bluntly, "Ask for leave. Visiting museums is too troublesome." Muzzy is broadcasting live in the live broadcast room. Link is a boy, so he knows what boys are thinking, so Muzzy can easily capture the favor of boys. For example, Ned has been liking Muzzy more and more recently. Although Ned will not spend money for Muzzy now, he will go to see Muzzy as soon as possible. 1 minute of Muzzy's energetic good morning is enough for him to go to school in a happy mood. During Muzzy's live broadcast, Spider Shadow touched his chin and rewarded Muzzy with a sum of money to let Muzzy call her master. In reality, he couldn't become Link's master. Could it be possible in the live broadcast room? Different from Muzzy, Spider Shadow is very interesting. After all, she is in Tony Stark's company. Tony Stark gave her too much pocket money. Master, people. The extremely beautiful girl with long black hair on the screen said these words delicately, and then the people in the live broadcast room asked the girl with long black hair to continue talking. Hey hey, the Spider Shadow lying on the sofa in the living room smiled like an idiot. Every time Muzzy called her master, she felt happy physically and mentally. I still want more. The Spider Shadow wiped the corner of his mouth, and the saliva flowed out. She continued to watch Muzzy's live broadcast. At the same time, Peter Parker, who was resting, received a reminder from his mobile phone. He opened it and found that Muzzy was broadcasting live, so let's take a look. What is Muzzy like today? Peter Parker clicked on the live broadcast room and saw a very beautiful girl with black hair. No matter how many times he watched it, he still thought Muzzy was very cute. Muzzy in the live broadcast is very sweet. If you have such a girlfriend, you will be very happy compared to most, right? Thinking about it carefully, if Muzzy is willing to associate with him in this appearance, Peter Parker thinks he will agree. After all, Muzzy is really too cute. It's a pity that the main body is a salted fish. In reality, Link always likes to touch fish, which makes people not like it. Peter Parker suddenly felt that if Link went to school in the image of Muzzy, then maybe even fishing would be very cute, right? What the hell am I thinking? Compared with Link, he hopes to go to school with Muzzy, because Muzzy is very cute. Peter Parker took out his homework and began to write, and then the homework belonged to Link, and his eyes fell on the phone screen. Sigh and sigh, for the sake of being so cute, I will help you as much as I can. Natasha is also watching Muzzy's live broadcast. Whenever Muzzy looks cute, she will show her anti-smile. Then he rewarded Muzzy hundreds of dollars in an instant, and then heard Muzzy's charming voice of thanks. At this time, Captain America looked at Natasha's screen silently, and then he clicked on Muzzy's live broadcast curiously. The black long straight girl inside is extremely beautiful, and isn't she just a little bit prettier? Captain America doesn't understand why Natasha is obsessed with this girl. Suddenly the girl sneezed. What's up with this cute creature? Captain America felt something awakening inside himself, and then he continued to watch the girl live for a few minutes. He suddenly wanted such a cute girl as his daughter. The live broadcast ended after about half an hour. Link came to the living room after the live broadcast. At this time, Spider Shadow was looking at something seriously, but Link felt that Spider Shadow was pretending, as if he secretly played with his mobile phone when he was a child and his parents suddenly walked into the room. But forget it, Zhu Ying didn't want to tell him, and he didn't intend to ask. After all, Zhu Ying was a girl, so there would inevitably be strange things. Link took a shower, and then read the magic book for a while before going to bed. The next morning, Link was awakened by the Spider Shadow, and the Spider Shadow quickly left after waking Link up, feeling like he was on the run. Link felt more and more that the spider looked like a human girl. He simply washed up and started to prepare breakfast. Breakfast was something he and Spider Shadow liked. It took him 10 minutes to make breakfast. Link called Spider Shadow to eat, and Spider Shadow came to the dining table soon. Spider Shadow finished eating in a hurry, and then she said, "I'm going to class." "Well, bye," Link said. He went to Tony Stark to learn technology knowledge in class, and the Spider Shadow seems to be getting more and more powerful recently. He was very happy to see the Spider Shadow getting stronger and stronger. After all, when the Spider Shadow became stronger, it meant that he also became stronger, so he was very happy that the Spider Shadow became stronger. A few minutes later, Link finished his breakfast and immediately put away the tableware. Then he started reading the spellbook. Change magic. If you encounter something with extremely strong energy, it will be difficult to change it, so what will happen if you combine strengthening magic with change magic? After thinking about Link's combination of the two magics, he then thought that the one with the strongest energy should be himself, so Link turned on the thunder mode, and then he used the enhanced transformation magic. Normally, Link doesn't have much energy, but once he turns on the thunder mode, he will be full of thunder energy, so it will be difficult for him to change himself at this time, but if this enhanced change magic is successful, then he will become Muzzy, and thunder will also be turned into armor. Immediately, he used enhanced transformation magic on himself. He successfully turned into Muzzy, and the thunder on his body also turned into a set of purple armor. This is considered a success. Modifying magic is very dangerous, but fortunately he succeeded this time. Then change back. At this moment, Link held the handprint that dispelled the magic in his hand. Suddenly Avril jumped out of the shadows. Link was taken aback, and then the dispelling magic was activated. It should be said that the dispelling magic was activated with a strange suffix. Then Link's appearance didn't change. Avril Lavigne also looked at the beautiful girl in front of her in surprise. Isn't this Link's house? Why is there a beautiful girl? Seeing that he still looked like Muzzy, Link continued to use dispel magic, but it didn't seem to work at all. Why? Because the dispelling magic that was pronounced just now was activated. Unleashing magic is very strict. Incorrect pronunciation of hand gestures or chanting will not succeed or turn into other magic. Just now, because of Avril Lavigne, he added the word. Although it is only 2 words, the pronunciation is completely different. I guess it may have turned into some strange magic. Link turned to Avril Lavigne and said, "Leave before I get angry." Avril was startled suddenly, but he was very angry at dyeing his hair, and he was too obsessed with the study of magic just now, so he forgot to be vigilant around him. This is also a lesson. After all, danger can strike anytime, anywhere. Link started to dispel his magic, and the thunder armor solved it easily, but he still couldn't make himself look like a man. Muzzy sat on the sofa and looked at Avril angrily. If it wasn't for this guy, he would have already returned to the man's body. Now Avril knew what happened to Link and looked at Link apologetically. Her eyes fell on Muzzy's face for a long time before she said, "This is also very pretty." "Get out," Muzzy couldn't help but said, and then she said, "I still have something to do, you should go home quickly. Otherwise, I will be angry when I see you." Seeing Muzzy so angry, Avril couldn't help saying, "I'm sorry." Muzzy said, "Don't be here next time, I'm going to find someone to see if I can break the magic." Avril thought for a while and said, "Can you go with me?" Muzzy said, "I'm going to find the Supreme Mage. I'd better go home." Avril left here in a hurry. Muzzy opened the portal and walked directly outside Ji Yuyi's room. Muzzy knocked on the door lightly. "This is a wooden door. Please come in." Ji Yuyi's voice came. Muzzy opened the door and saw Master Ji Yuyi was meditating, probably just wandering away. Muzzy respectfully told Ji Yuyi what happened to him. Ji Yuyi looked at Muzzy and said, "Isn't there a saying in China? To untie the bell, you must tie the bell. I can indeed undo the magic for you, but you will lose a lot of things. Even so, you have to let me undo the magic. Ancient One can help Link undo the magic, but in this way Link will lose a lot of opportunities for growth. This is an exchange, using future growth for Link to recover." Ji Yuyi stared at Muzzy. She knew that the girl in front of her was Link. Muzzy sighed and said, "I know, I'll solve it by myself." This time can be regarded as a kind of training for her. So Muzzy basically spends the rest of the time in the magic library learning all kinds of knowledge. On Monday, Link came to school as usual, and now he is able to come to school because of the Ancient One's magic. In people's eyes, he still looks like Link. But still pay attention, after all, he is Muzzy's body now, so be careful not to be discovered. "But today I am going to visit the museum." Link came to the classroom and began to fall asleep, and he didn't wake up until the teacher came. A few minutes, the teacher led the students into the car. Link sat with Spider Shadow, and Spider Shadow could act as a barrier to prevent others from reaching him. Link continued to sleep as soon as he got in the car. An hour later, the car stopped, and Link opened his eyes. At this time, people started to walk down one after another. Link and Spider Shadow were not in a hurry and sat down. After a while, it was almost time for people to leave, so Link and Spider Shadow also got up and got off the car. As soon as Link got out of the car, he saw Peter Parker and the others waiting. Afterwards, the teacher took them to visit the museum, while Link walked silently, still thinking about how to break the magic. At this time, Gwen Stacy appeared in front of Link and said, "What do you think of this place?" Link looked around and saw that there was nothing he was interested in, so he said, "It's okay." Gwen Stacy noticed that Link was absent-minded. Did something happen? Noon. The teacher asked the students to have dinner and then gather at 2 o'clock. Link naturally ate with Peter Parker and the others. Michelle Jones, Ned, and Mary Jane were discussing something in the oven. While Link was much quieter, he was eating silently and the spider Shadow was as quiet. Muzzy is really cute, Michelle Jones said suddenly at this time. Recently she found that boys are discussing Muzzy, so she went to find out a little bit, and then found that Muzzy is really cute, so she didn't know unwittingly infected Mary Jane. So just now the three of them were discussing about Muzzy. Hearing what Michelle Jones said, Link, Spider Shadow, and Peter Parker all looked a little strange. Peter Parker's eyes fell on Link's face. Link's expression looked a little strange. Because Link has Ancient One's magic, he is not worried about Muzzy's identity being discovered. But is Muzzy too popular? Afternoon. Link returned home, and he was going to continue learning magic. But after a while, someone knocked on the door, and Link opened it to find Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy looked at Link and said, "Can I go in?" Link nodded. Now he doesn't want Gwen Stacy to come, because he is in a hurry to learn magic. Gwen Stacy walked into the living room and sat on the sofa. Link prepared a drink for Gwen Stacy, and then began to read the magic book by himself. Gwen Stacy felt that Link was a bit strange. After thinking about it, she actually came behind Link. She hugged Link carefully, and then she felt strange in the next second. The person in front of her was not Link. Directly, Link silently pulled Gwen Stacy's hand away, and confessed that he knew magic. Gwen Stacy looked at the beautiful black-haired girl in front of her and couldn't help but said, "Are you really Link?" Muzzy nodded and said, "Do you want to say something?" Gwen Stacy blushed slightly, then shook her head and said, "I didn't expect you to be Muzzy. It's amazing. Because it's easy to make money by being a girl live broadcast," Link said bluntly. Gwen Stacy feels helpless for Link's outspokenness. Isn't he too casual? Time passed little by little. Link got up at night and said, "I'll take you home." Gwen Stacy shook her head and said, "I'll be staying here tonight." Link glanced at Gwen Stacy and said, "I'm not a man now." Gwen Stacy tapped Link on the head and said, "Boring, who said only men are allowed?" Gwen Stacy's words contain a lot of information. Link isn't talking to Gwen Stacy either. The next day, Link pushed Gwen Stacy awake and said, "Time to get up." Gwen Stacy said in a daze, "Link who turned into a girl is also very powerful." Link tapped Gwen Stacy and said, "Get up, or you'll be late." Only then did Gwen Stacy get up in a daze. Last night was too noisy, but the blushing Muzzy was still very cute, at least she liked it very much. Gwen Stacy said at this time, "Actually, this is pretty good. At least that way you won't be looking for other women." Link looked at Gwen Stacy and said, "Being a woman made me less powerful." Link tilted his head and looked at Annie, who was running hard below. Annie has been working harder and harder recently. She is going to participate in the competition, so now she is training more and more. A few minutes later, Annie stopped, and Annie habitually looked in Link's direction, and then Annie and Link's eyes met. Annie was a little overjoyed. He was indeed looking at herself, and Annie showed a big smile. Link also smiled. After a while, Annie started training again, and Link also turned around and took out the magic book and started reading. Magic. The more I study, the more I feel ignorant. There are still many magics I want to learn. At this time, Gwen Stacy quietly looked in Link's direction, and now she knew why Link was so serious, because he wanted to get rid of the second sound as soon as possible and become his original appearance. Hope he can succeed. Gwen Stacy went back to her books and still has a lot to learn today. Many of the things the teacher said are things that need to be digested by herself, because she is willing to spend time on studying, so her grades in school are very good, at least much better than Link. The teacher in class babbled a lot, but Link didn't listen to a word. He kept reading the magic book. Although he felt that he was very talented in magic, he still had some incomprehensible magic. 1 month later on Saturday, Link, with dark circles under his eyes, finally got rid of the magic, and now he has returned to his original appearance. Not only that, but now his magic has also become very powerful. At least a lot stronger than a month ago. Today, just as Link was about to go home, he received a call from Annie. After answering the phone, Annie expressed that she was not confident. Link invited Annie to play after thinking about it. Anne readily agreed. After Annie sent a message, Link went to Annie. When I found Annie, she had dark circles under her eyes, probably because she was very anxious. Link began to comfort Annie, and Annie quickly recovered a little, but she was still a little anxious. There is no way Link can only play around with Annie until the evening. Because it was getting dark, Link sent Annie home. Half an hour later, the two came to Annie's house. Annie opened the door and said that there was something good to show Link, and Link walked in without doubting it. Annie said that her parents went out to play today. Link nodded. He thought he would see Anne's parents. Annie took Link to her room. Annie covered Link's eyes with her hand and said mischievously, "You can't peek." Link nodded. After a while, Link heard the sound of washing, and the sound of clothes rubbing against skin. Seconds later, Anne's moist lips kissed Link. Link didn't refuse Annie. The next morning, Annie told Link that the reason for her anxiety was because of Link's affairs. Annie wanted to make real progress with Link, but she was afraid of making Link angry, so she was very anxious. But in the end, I mustered up the courage to take the most important step. Link was kicked out after breakfast at Annie's because Annie was going to a competition. Link started to hang out after being kicked out of the house by Annie, and today is Saturday. Because he was busy disabling the magic recently, he didn't go to another world, so let's try to go to another world tonight. Link still plans to go to the world of Ghost Slayer, learn the Breath of Love for the time being, and then go to Daomazuma or the world of One Piece to learn Domineering. Night. Link went to bed early. He was going to another world after all. When he opened his eyes again, he found that he was in the place where he left before, and it was also night. Link quickly rushed to the butterfly house. Not long after Link arrived at the butterfly house, Aoi Kanzaki, who was cleaning, noticed that Link was in a daze and then tears fell from his eyes. Link had left for a long time without any news, and they all thought Link was dead. Unexpectedly, Link came back, and Aoi Kanzaki raised the broom and hit Link. "You fool, where did you die? Don't you know we are worried?" Aoi Kanzaki said angrily. Link avoided the broom and said, "How could I die? And didn't I say that I would leave for a while?" Aoi Kanzaki still attacked Link relentlessly. There is no way Link can only let Aoi Kanzaki hit. Aoi Kanzaki's face turned pale. She didn't expect to hit Link. After all, he had dodged the attack before. Aoi Kanzaki couldn't help but said, "Why don't you avoid it?" Aoi Kanzaki didn't want to hit Link. Link touched the hand that was hit by Aoi Kanzaki and said casually, "It doesn't matter if I have rough skin and thick flesh." Aoi Kanzaki complained to Link and said, "Go wash your hands, we should go eat." After Link nodded, he was entangled by the three little ones. Li Waluo Shongnai almost returned Link's knife when he saw Link came back. Link expressed his gratitude to Li Hualuoxiangnai, which was simply a smile. Butterfly Shinobu didn't ask much during the meal, as she thought it would be good if Link was alive. After eating, Link began to ask if there was any major event recently. Butterfly shook his head and said no, but he has killed a lot of ghosts recently. After a brief understanding of what happened recently, Link began to practice breathing. After a while, Leonju hurried over, and the first time she saw Link, she couldn't help crying. Link suddenly felt that Leonju was still very cute. Look at her soft appearance. At this time, Leonju approached Link, touched Link and said, "Since I ate the delicious food you prepared, I can't eat other food anymore. Promise me not to die, okay? At least die after me." Link's emotion disappeared. He raised his hand and knocked on Leonju's head and said, "I won't die, I'm so annoyed by the crying." Leonju distanced himself silently and said, "Can you prepare some food for me? I ran over and consumed a lot of food just now, so you have to be responsible." Link clenched his fist to Leonju and said, "No." Leonju stroked his hair suddenly and said, "For the sake of being so cute." Before Leonju finished speaking, Link laughed. Leonju felt a little embarrassed. She touched her head and said, "I really want to eat the food you cook." Seeing Leonju's pitiful appearance, Link sighed and said, "We need to use the breathing method to exchange." Leonju nodded and said, "No problem at all." Immediately, Leonju followed Link like a follower. Leonju watched Link silently and praised Link from time to time. Link was made a little helpless. After having a full meal, Miri of Ganlu Temple taught the breathing method to Link contentedly, but she still said, it's not that the more breathing methods, the stronger, you have to be specialized. The more breathing methods, the better. If one person practices one breathing method, and another person practices dozens of breathing methods, then the person who practices one breathing method at the same time will become stronger faster, so she thinks just remind Link yourself. Hearing Ganluji Miri's words, Link swung his knife and played the breath of flowers, water, and insects all over again. Ganluji Miri's eyes widened and he couldn't help but said, your breathing method, the progress is so fast, no wonder you have to practice so many breathing methods. Even if you practice so many breathing methods, the progress is faster than others. Are you really human? Ganluji Miri patted the plump place and said, it's getting late, I'm going back to sleep. Link nodded and said, goodbye. Kanroji Mitsuri sneaked out as soon as she left Kanzaki Aoi. She looked at Link and said, where did you go before? Link looked at Aoi Kanzaki and said, go home and deal with some things, and I'll come back when I'm done. Aoi Kanzaki sat next to Link looking at the pond. Aoi Kanzaki was very quiet. Link looked at Aoi Kanzaki. He was a little puzzled. She should be very noisy in the past, why is she so quiet now? Before Link could speak, Aoi Kanzaki said, don't be killed by a ghost. Aoi Kanzaki left after saying those words. Link will definitely not be killed by ghosts. Besides, he doesn't care much about these ghosts. Even if it is a ghost that goes up, that's all for him. Suddenly Link heard footsteps. He raised his head and saw the little senior sister Li Waluo Shang Nai walking over. She looked at Link calmly, and Link didn't know what she was going to do. But Li Hua Luoxiang sat down next to Link, and Link said, what's the matter, little sister? Li Hua Luoxiang's eyes fell on Link's face. She seemed to be digesting the fact that Link called her little senior sister. After a while, she said, welcome back. For a moment, Link felt warm in his heart. He just didn't regard this world as a place to gain strength before, and he didn't care too much about the relationship with others. Unexpectedly, the little senior sister already regarded himself as one of his own, and Link felt a little guilty. He smiled and said, I'm back. The two sat for a while and then went back to their rooms. The next day, in the early morning, Link was woken up by Butterfly Ninja. Butterfly Ninja told Link that there was a ghost, so he asked Link and Li Hua Luoshanahu to investigate. Link didn't refuse. He was looking for a ghost to hone his martial arts. Li Hua Luoxiangnihu was also very quiet along the way. Link didn't speak, and she basically couldn't speak either. It would be great if there was a girlfriend like Li Hua Luoxiangnihu. After all, Link really likes this way of getting along. The road is still a dirt road, which is fine on sunny days but difficult to walk when it rains. It took Link and Li Hua Luoxiangnihu a day to arrive at the target location. Link and Li Hua Luochanahu separate to collect news. Link grabbed a little girl and said, has anything strange happened to my little sister recently? The little girl's eyes fell on Link's face, and she was a little shy for a while, because Link is so handsome. The little girl tried her best to keep reserved. She said shyly, is it strange? Recently Miss Inoue seems to be unable to bask in the sun. It is said that it is a ghost made by a monster. Miss Inoue has been staying at home lately, and there will be monsters at night. Appear, big brother, you have to be careful. The little girl and Link talked a lot. Link felt that the so-called Miss Inoue had become a ghost, so she couldn't bask in the sun and kept her house behind closed doors. As for the ghosts appearing at night, it might be that Miss Inoue went out to hunt for food and harm people. Link walked over after asking about the location of Inoue's house. Link uses magic to make himself invisible. A few minutes later, Link came to Inoue's house, and he smelled a strong smell of blood, probably because many people died. Link jumped into the yard and saw several young men burying something. Link got a little closer and found that it was a corpse, and the Inoue family might have been helping to do evil. Link followed the smell of ghosts and after a while he came to a basement. The location here is wide. Link saw a woman in a red robe sitting in the center. She moved her nose and said, strange smell, who are you? The woman looks back. Link's figure appeared little by little, and the moment she saw Link, the woman's face turned red and she began to salute. Link didn't understand the etiquette of the island country. He drew out his knife and looked at the woman and said, I'm here to kill you. You must know why I want to kill you, right? The woman's eyes were a little dim. She lowered her head and said, I committed a great crime, so get rid of you and kill me. Link held the knife and approached the woman. Since she has such a good attitude, let her die without pain. Suddenly a black figure rushed out from the shadows. He growled like a monster. He said in a hoarse voice, Miss Inoue, I will protect you. A monster-like man looked at Link and protected the woman behind him. Ms. Inoue said, it's enough, just let me die. The man didn't intend to leave. A mere human. The man rushed towards Link. At this time, the woman raised her bloody blade and split the man open. The man was divided into two, and he said suspiciously, why did Miss attack me? The man is a ghost, so he doesn't feel pain, but he feels the pain in his heart. Obviously, when he gains strength, he asks the Lord to let the frail and sick lady walk. The lady becomes healthy because of him, so why attack him? I work hard every day to prepare food for her, why does she still attack herself? Is it because the boy in front of him is prettier than him? Ah! The man roared, and the two halves of his body joined together for a moment. He growled, he was angry, and he wanted to tear Link to pieces. At this time, Link swung the blade lightly, and the man's body was chopped into pieces in the next second, and Link's blow killed the man. There should be no pain, right? The woman smiled, she was afraid of pain. Link walked up to the woman and raised the knife. Wait a minute. At this moment, a man ran out in a hurry. Link stopped. Then the man told Link that Miss Inoue was turned into a ghost by the ghost just now, and Miss Inoue had never killed anyone, and Miss Inoue was also forced to eat people. Link touched his chin. Although what the man said is possible, it may also be a lie. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.